Chapter 1397. The two rows of senior disciples parted in the shape of a goose's wing. Behind them, teams of silver-clad disciples came out slowly and lined up behind the first row. There were 500 of them. Then, groups of white-robed disciples with clothes as white as snow rushed out like a tide, lining up behind the silver-robed disciples. There were no less than 5,000 of them. The other disciples did not come out, perhaps because they were not qualified enough. However, the sex capability that had been displayed so far was already earth-shattering and had shaken the bound of universe. Most of these disciples were still children, but their cultivation base was not low. Each and every one of them had a heaven-bestowed innate talent. How could the residence of 9 Supremes, which had just been established, gather so many talents in one place? Why was every disciple of the residence of 9 Supremes so talented? Just look at these 6,000 disciples. Any one of them can be cultivated as a seed disciple in a second-class or even first-class sect. Most of them can even be directly listed as the leader's disciple, the successor. A white-haired elder was so shocked that he almost suffocated. Where did the residence of 9 Supremes find so many talented disciples? Even with Supreme Cloud's reputation, the residence of 9 Supremes has just been established. Even if there are tens of thousands of disciples, it's impossible for them to collect so many talents. How did they do it? In fact, this was the question that everyone present shared. Most of those who came here to watch the ceremony did not have a weak cultivation base, and right now, everyone's eyes were green with envy. It was not easy for a talented disciple to find a great teacher. But similarly, it was equally difficult for a master cultivator to find a talented disciple to inherit his legacy. As the saying went, only when there was a bow could there be a 1,000-li steed. However, if there was no 1,000-li steed, so what if there was a bow? This logic was also true in reverse. It was the ultimate truth. In spite of this, the residence of 9 Supremes had put so many talented disciples on the table. It was too strange and shocking. Furthermore, it was far too illogical. Everyone's eyes widened and they were speechless. It was fortunate that they had not entered the residence of 9 Supremes to take a look. If they had, they would have fainted on the spot when they saw more disciples with equally outstanding talents. The number of disciples in the residence of 9 Supremes had already exceeded 20,000, and each and every one of them was a prodigy with outstanding talents. Such a lineup of high-quality disciples is a legend that can never be replicated since ancient times. An elder sighed. Suddenly his eyes brightened. The residence of 9 Supremes has arranged such a grand and solemn array. Could it be that Lord Supreme Cloud has returned? As soon as these words were spoken, it instantly caused the eyes of everyone present to light up, and they were fascinated by it. The new legend of the continent, the young hero of the human race, the #1 expert in the world, was coming back? In the clouds. Ji Lingxi, who was hidden inside, shook her head and sighed. The residence of 9 Supremes is slightly better than ours. This is an unimaginable miracle. All the higher-ups of the residence of 9 Supremes tilted their heads a little, but they still had to agree against their will. Sect leader is right. However, he was cursing in his heart. Was this slightly better? How was this an unimaginable miracle? Even if the residence of 9 Supremes can be listed as a cultivation holy land, it's still a far cry from the residence of 9 Supremes. It's fine to say that it's worlds apart. The residence of 9 Supremes is a wonderland. Or sighed. I thought it was a wonderland before I came here, but now it looks like it's a wonderland on earth at most. It's only a difference of an article, but it's already heaven and earth apart, the difference between human and immortal. At the entrance of the residence of 9 Supremes, about a dozen people walked out in a line. They were the people from the residence of 9 Supremes. At the front were the second Supreme of the residence of 9 Supremes, Shi Wuchen and Dong Qitian, followed by Chen Duoduo, Luo Dajiang, Tai Qingcang, Ren Qingquang, Wu Minghuan, Lan Ruojuan, Shi Bujia, Kong Luoyue, Guanuanyang, and Ping Xiaoi. Chen Duoduo had been pushed to the front by everyone this time. The residence of 9 Supremes had been able to develop rapidly even when the sect leader was not around. Little Fatty's contribution was undeniable, so the Demiurge Flawed 10 had allowed him to walk at the forefront. As for Dong Qitian, he did not plan to come out this time because he felt that he had really embarrassed himself. When Yunyang was not around, he had voluntarily joined the residence of 9 Supremes, whom Yunyang had repeatedly invited but was not willing to join. Old Dong felt that he was a donkey being forced to retreat instead of moving forward. He even felt rather despicable. Nevertheless, Shi Wuchen still pulled him out. Elder Dong, this is a big day for the residence of 9 Supremes. We can't be without you. Dong Qitian was helpless. What big day? Isn't it just that fellow's return? Before he left back then, beating him up was like catching a bird from his crotch. Who knows, I might not be able to beat him now. This is even more depressing than being forced to join the residence of 9 Supremes. The people around them discussed among themselves. Aren't those the famous Demiurge flawed 10? These 10 people were famous back then, but no one actually thought highly of them. They were all cultivators abandoned by the heavens and were crippled from their cultivation, but they never admitted defeat. They kept striving to improve themselves, probably because they never accepted their fate, struggling to survive step by step. Finally, they founded the residence of 9 Supremes with Lord Supreme Cloud. Now that they have such achievements, each of them has risen to become an important figure above the clouds. Looking at them is the highest embodiment of the famous saying, "Never give up hope no matter what setbacks you encounter." Giving up hope is the complete abandonment of life. Someone was educating the juniors around him earnestly. The Demiurge flawed 10, who were almost ignored in the past and were merely used as a whetstone for the juniors, had now become the object of envy and admiration. They were the standard example of a loser's counterattack. It was truly inspiring. Amidst the chatter, the wind and clouds rolled in the sky, as if they were integrating and forming various strokes mysteriously. Then they formed huge words that appeared in the air. The residence of 9 Supremes welcomes the return of the leader. Shi Wuchen let out a long howl. Welcome the return of the residence's leader. Welcome the return of the residence's leader. Everyone shouted in unison. The sound waves soared into the sky, reverberating through the mountains and valleys. Yun Yang, who was standing nearby, smiled bitterly. He saw Shi Wuchen looking in his direction from afar. The fellow must have noticed his return long ago, which was why he was doing this. As the saying went, one could understand the meaning of a melody. Everyone could not help turning to look at Shi Wuchen's movement. On the other side of the road, there was a sudden flash of golden light. Yun Yang held Shangguan Lingxiu with one hand, using all his strength to prevent her from breaking free. Shangguan Lingxiu struggled for a moment, only to realize that Yun Yang had used his true strength. How could she have struggled so easily? Just as she was about to exert more strength, she felt a pair of peculiar gazes on her. Shangguan Lingxiu looked in the direction of her intuition, only to see Ji Lingxi staring at her from above the clouds. Struck with a thought, she snorted softly and flashed a cooperative smile. She no longer struggled and followed Yun Yang obediently. Ji Lingxi, who was in the sky, moved her red lips, mumbling something under her breath. She did not look too good. I promised not to let this fellow take advantage of me. What do you mean by this? Is this the early bird? Besides, to stand side by side in public like this is a declaration of sovereignty. I should be here as well. How infuriating. This is the early bird, it's done. Of course, Ji Lingxi did not know that Shangguan Lingxiu was actually feeling a sense of delight, as if she was one step ahead of the others. She followed Yun Yang slowly, filled with delight. As they moved forward, both Yun Yang and Shangguan Lingxiu were shrouded in a layer of dazzling light. Each step they took spanned hundreds of feet, seemingly slow but actually fast. A 7-colored lotus blossomed beneath their feet with every step they took. Is this the lotus blooming with every step a saint takes? Everyone who witnessed this miraculous scene could only feel shock in their hearts. They were completely shocked. It was probably the legendary saint that walked. Each step of his would produce lotuses, but the lotuses that were born and extinguished with each step. Wherever Yun Yang walked, the colorful lotuses that appeared out of thin air did not dissipate. Instead, they seemed to have materialized into a tangible existence. By the time Yun Yang came to the front of Shi Wuchen and the others, he had taken exactly 9 steps. 9 was the pinnacle of numbers. As Yun Yang took his last step, a total of 9 lotuses had formed on the ground. In the next moment, the 7-colored lotuses expanded abruptly, forming a lotus seat that floated up and landed by the side of the road. There were 5 lotuses on one side and 4 on the other. Although they were not symmetrical, they were arranged in a picturesque manner, forming a pattern of their own. In an instant, an extremely dense spiritual chi had already emerged from the lotus seats. This was equivalent to gifting the martial world with 9 sacred cultivation grounds in addition to the residence of 9 Supremes. At once, everyone's eyes that were looking at the 9 lotus seats were green with envy. However, they could not be snatched away by force. How they would be used in the future was still a matter of debate, but this was undoubtedly a rare opportunity. Dispense with the formalities. Yun Yang laughed. Greetings, fellow martial artists. Yun Yang is ashamed that the residence has neglected our hospitality today. I hope that we can drink and chat merrily with all of you in the future, and we shall not return until we are drunk." Everyone felt their faces light up when they heard him, and they spoke up one after another. "Lord Supreme Cloud is too courteous. You must be tired after such a long journey. You should rest first." Seeing Yun Yang's arrival, all the disciples knelt on the ground respectfully. Yun Yang said in a low voice, "Rise all of you. We're just going home. There's no need to make such a grand scene and go through all the formalities." Then, he returned to the mountain gate of the residence of 9 Supremes with the people of the residence of 9 Supremes. "Elder Dong, what's the matter with you?" Yun Yang coughed and tilted his head to look at someone with a smile. Dong Qiqin could not help blushing and he did not speak for a moment. Shi Wuchen explained, "Elder Dong has joined the residence of 9 Supremes now. Since the eldest isn't here, this young brother will temporarily appoint Elder Dong as the residence's chief elder." Yun Yang nodded and said, "Elder Dong, you've finally thought it through. You've repented from the wrong path, turned over a new leaf and turned over a new leaf. This is worthy of celebration. The position of the residence's chief elder is just right for you, Elder Dong." Dong Qiqin was exasperated and he retorted angrily, "How have I repented from the wrong path? How have I turned over a new leaf? Since when did I need to turn over a new leaf? Where is the wrong path? Where is the wrong path? You've improved so much in your cultivation base and now you're so arrogant?" Yun Yang gave him a sideways glance and said, "I say, Elder Dong, although you're the residence's chief elder, you should at least have some basic respect for the residence's supreme. What's with your attitude? Aren't you setting a bad example for the disciples of the residence of 9 Supremes?" Dong Qiqin was fuming with rage. Everyone burst out laughing, knowing that Yun Yang was taking revenge on Dong Qiqin for refusing to join the residence of 9 Supremes previously. Now it was time for revenge. Dong Qiqian's heart was filled with rage. This bastard had been so respectful and humble before he left. At that time he had addressed him as Elder Dong, but now he had become Old Dong. Moreover, this fellow was only speaking politely now, but who could not hear the mockery in his heart? His attitude had changed too quickly. He was obviously arrogant after achieving his goal. "I've been through a lot out there this time, but I haven't fought to my heart's content yet." Yun Yang said, "Tomorrow I'll spar with you, Elder Dong. You don't have to hold back this time, just do your best. I'll be extra careful." The crowd tried even harder to stifle their laughter. Dong Qiqin was dumbfounded. His face darkened as he said, "I have something to attend to tomorrow. This matter can't be delayed. I won't be accompanying you this time." "Are you kidding me? I toyed with you like a grandson back then. Now you're taking revenge on me? Do you think I'm stupid? I won't fall for your tricks." Shi Wuchen mused. "Elder Dong, why do I remember that you've decided to watch the disciples' martial arts practice tomorrow and didn't offer advice to the winner? I think you should just bear with it and spar with boss in front of the disciples. It'll be a good opportunity for the disciples to see the battle between the world's pinnacle cultivators." Amidst the laughter, Dong Qiqin flew into a rage. "Nonsense. I don't have the time for that." With a snort, he turned around and left, disappearing without a trace in an instant. The crowd burst into laughter. The residence of 9 Supremes' #1 thorn that no one could deal with had finally met his nemesis today. Yun Yang sighed inwardly. He had finally seen through Old Dong's true cultivation base, the pinnacle of a third-grade Saint Emperor. This old fellow has hidden it well. After Shi Wuchen and Yun Yang entered the mountain gate, the disciples went to the training field to gather after greeting them. Only the residents of 9 Supremes' higher-ups were left. Qian Duo came over with a drooling face. "Boss, we're already home. Aren't you going to take off your hood to broaden our horizons?" Puff, swoosh. Qian Duo flew out with a whoosh, disappearing in the blink of an eye. From afar, a cry of surprise came from the small courtyard where Qian Duo lived. "Your father actually flew into my own bed. That's amazing." The crowd roared with laughter again, so much so that their eyes could not be seen. "Boss, this is..." Shi Wuchen blinked. Yun Yang looked helpless. "Haven't you seen her before? Why are you still asking?" Shi Wuchen chuckled. "It's true that I've seen her before, but the rest of the brothers haven't." Before his voice trailed off, the demiurge Flawed 10 joined in. Shangguan Lingxiu's pretty face was flushed behind the veil, her hands and feet at a loss. Although Shangguan Lingxiu had enjoyed walking hand in hand with Yun Yang in front of the crowd earlier, she could not help but feel embarrassed. Now that she was facing the crowd, she lowered her head even more. "This is my fiancé," Yun Yang said with a laugh. "The leader of the residence of 9 Supremes." The residence of 9 Supremes is about to merge with the residence of 9 Supremes. All hail the boss. In the distance, Gan Tianyin and Ping Jinyue, who had just come to congratulate them, had a change of expression on their faces. We haven't even come to a final decision. But the residence of 9 Supremes, which is also a middle-class celestial luck banner sect, has already decided to merge with us? Doesn't this mean that we're one step ahead of everyone else? Gan Tianyin sighed and said in a low voice, "There's nothing we can do about it. We can't compete even if we want to. His fiancée's sect has its own advantage. It's not the fault of the battle." Ping Jinyue nodded with a dark expression and said, "Let's go back and discuss the matter quickly. We need to make a decision soon." All right. Following that, the higher-ups of the Phoenix Cry sect came to congratulate them and left in a hurry after a few words. The training field. It was none other than Bai Rui. The 20,000 disciples of the residence of 9 Supremes were lined up neatly. Yun Yang, who was wearing a black mask, had only said a few words, but it had still caused a tsunami of cheers. Countless admiring gazes below, the little fellows were so excited that their hearts were about to explode. They were not at all disappointed that they could not see the legendary handsome face. After all, this is our sect leader master. We've finally seen him in the flesh. After encouraging the little fellows in front of him, he talked to Shi Wuchen and the others about recent events. Only then did he know that a few batches of experts had come to attack the residence of 9 Supremes previously. Fortunately, Dong Qitian was in the sect and had killed some of them, capturing more than a dozen of them. The attackers were all Supreme Saint experts from the East Celestial Palace. Naturally, they were nothing in front of Dong Qitian. Speaking of which, it was fortunate that Dong Qitian had not revealed his true strength. Dong Fang Xingqian had assumed that the strongest combat power of the residence of 9 Supremes was only that of a Supreme Saint. Due to his carelessness, the residence of 9 Supremes remained unscathed. If a batch of Supreme Saint experts had really attacked the residence of 9 Supremes, Dong Qitian was not Yin Yang, despite his cultivation base at the pinnacle of the Supreme Saint level. He could not fight them alone, and the residence of 9 Supremes would inevitably be in danger of collapsing. Yun Yang's expression darkened, and he snorted without saying anything. The residence of 9 Supremes had not suffered any losses, and the matter was over. After all, even the people who had sent them had been killed by him, and the 3 celestial palaces had searched like plowing the ground. Most of them were already dead, so there was no need to be angry over this. Kill those captives. There's no need to keep them alive. Yun Yang ordered faintly. All right. Shi Wuchen and the others were speechless. He was indeed the boss, not giving any face to the East Celestial Palace. Then Yun Yang called Chen Duo over. Put all these things into the sect's warehouse to supply the sect's resources. Yun Yang handed Chen Duo 4 spatial rings. What's this? Chen Duo, who had boasted that his horizons had broadened recently, casually opened one of them and exclaimed immediately. His body trembled like a pendulum, his face flushed, and his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He could not catch his breath and he almost fainted. Ping Xiaoyi was startled and he finally managed to catch his breath after patting and beating Majordomo Qian. He continued to look at the other rings and finally, he fainted on the spot with a gah. He fainted from the shock of the astonishing wealth in the rings. You're still so weak, Yin Yang sighed. This is not bad, this is not even 1% of what I've gained, and you fainted just like that? If I take them all out, won't you be sleeping here forever? Early in the morning the next day, the residence of 9 Supremes is here to discuss the merger. The merger of the residence of 9 Supremes and the residence of 9 Supremes was different from the General Commerce League's agreement to seek refuge, and it was also different from the Phoenix Cry sect's indecisiveness. It was truly just a formality. It could even be said that both parties had long been prepared for it. If there were any differences, it would only be regarding the distribution of positions. The difference in the distribution of positions here was not due to unequal distribution, but because some important people were unwilling to work. Yes, you're right, some important people are unwilling to work. The residents of 9 Supremes founding elders, the main backbone Ling Xiaozue, Du Guqiu and Gu Chaoyang remained where they were. The other higher-ups of the residents of 9 Supremes were still doing what they were doing. There were no changes. The important people who were unwilling to work were Ji Lingxi and Shangguan Lingxiu. These two leaders wanted to be hands-off bosses, not wanting to toil anymore. Yun Yang and Shi Wuchen were troubled by the two ladies' decision. You can definitely relax if you want, but it's not appropriate to just let go and ignore everything, is it not? No matter what, one of you has to take up a leadership position. Otherwise, it'll be hard for your sect's disciples to feel at ease. Even after this period of time, you can still let go after everything has been sorted out. Yun Yang persuaded them with an emotional tone, but Ji Lingxi shook her head. Without you around previously, we had no choice but to put in the effort to manage the residents of Nine Supreme's affairs. Now that we're by your side, if we still need to work hard on our own, why would we look for you? What do we want you for? Ji Lingxi's words were very convincing, rendering Yun Yang speechless and unable to refute her. Shi Wuchen and the rest almost choked. In the end, it was Shangguan Lingxiu who took on the title of the Residence of Nine Supreme's deputy leader, but she also said seriously, I'll only give you half a year's time. After that, I won't do anything. Yun Yang was even more helpless about this, so he agreed, pinching his nose. He really could not bear to let go of Shangguan Lingxiu, who had the talent of a great general. Ji Lingxi, on the other hand, was just a bonus. A certain fellow who was no longer a pretty boy had planned on Shangguan Lingxiu from the very beginning. If Ji Lingxi could be dragged down with him, it would not be a problem even if he had another helper. Qian Duo, you'll handle the arrangements for the residence of Nine Supreme's disciples personally. Is there any problem? No, there's no problem at all. Qian Duo patted his chest and promised. The residence of Nine Supremes was the direct descendant of the sect leader's wife, so they were a family in the truest sense of the word. With a little more generosity and courtesy, everything would be settled. Send out invitations to the 3 heavenly palaces, all the halls, and all the sects with celestial luck banners to attend the merging of the residence of Nine Supremes and the residence of Nine Supremes. The date is 20 days later, on the 2nd of the 9th month. Since the matter has been settled, there's no need to delay it. Just get it done as soon as possible, Yun Yang said calmly. Shi Wuchen was shocked. There's no problem with the merging ceremony 20 days later, but can the invitees come? He actually invited the palace masters of the 3 heavenly palaces? Does the residence of Nine Supremes have such a great reputation? It's their business whether they come or not, but it's our business whether we do it or not, Yun Yang said with a chuckle brimming with confidence. Luo Dajiang scratched his head and asked, why is it the 2nd of the 9th month? Yun Yang exhaled softly and said slowly, legend has it that the 2nd of the 9th month is the birthday of the universally acknowledged, greatest and most handsome god of creation. Let's set the merging ceremony on that day, so that we can bask in the joy and sweep away the gloom. Boss, you're so far-sighted. Just as the meeting was about to end after everything was settled, a report came in. Chief Xiao Wui of the General Commerce League is here to visit the leader with Vice Chief Lang Fantian. Invite them in. Not long after, Lang Fantian and Xiao Wui entered side by side. Yun Yang welcomed them personally without the slightest air of being supreme cloud or looking down on them. However, just as he was about to exchange pleasantries, he was shocked. Vice Chief Lang? What happened to you? Lang Fantian's eyes were like a panda's and his face was still bruised and swollen. This was clearly a situation caused by someone's fists. Yun Yang had experienced it firsthand. Back then he had been ravaged by Ji Lingxi. However, Yun Yang had always been fond of looking good. With Emmy's help, he could recover swiftly no matter how badly he was beaten up without worrying about being seen by others. Lang Fantian could never be compared to him in this aspect. Go. It's a long story. Lang Fantian said grudgingly, I've offended someone I can't afford to offend with my words. Sigh. Xiao Wui said seriously, who was it that beat you up? You won't even tell me when I ask. I'll avenge you. How can I let the matter rest when they bully us brothers? Lang Fantian was stunned before he said, that bastard is too powerful. Boss, you can't defeat him. You'll suffer at least 990% of your own injuries. Xiao Wui said faintly, even if I can't hurt the enemy and suffer more, I must avenge myself. When we leave the residence of Nine Supremes, I'll bring you to find that bastard and end the karma. Lang Fantian shuddered and said quickly, there's no need. That's a small matter. Let's talk about business first. Yun Yang was observant and knew what the bastard was up to. Naturally, he guessed that the bastard was Xiao Wui himself. As thoughts flitted through his mind, he laughed and mediated, esteemed guests, you're here but you're talking at the door. It's my fault as the host for not treating my guests well. Please come in. Serve tea. Chief Xiao, I wonder what instructions you have for coming all the way here? I'm all ears. After 3 rounds of tea, Yun Yang began the conversation. Xiao Wui sucked in a deep breath and glanced at Lang Fantian, wanting him to speak to ease the atmosphere. However, he sighed after some thought and spoke bluntly, Lord Supreme Cloud, to be honest, I'm here to seek refuge. Yun Yang was dumbfounded when he heard such an odd statement. Seek refuge? Chief Shao, why do you say that? Xiao Wui chuckled dryly. I've been shouldering the responsibility of the General Commerce League's leader for years and I've long been exhausted. Now, the residence of 9 Supremes is rising like the sun. It's conceivable that its future achievements won't be limited to a first-class celestial luck banner sect. Therefore, I've thought about it with my brothers. The residence of 9 Supremes business path has been expanded and flourished everywhere. This is similar to the specialization of the General Commerce League. Because of this, we'd like to merge the General Commerce League into the residence of 9 Supremes, to unite and develop together. I hope that Lord Supreme Cloud can agree to accept the League's surrender. Yun Yang was completely dumbfounded. To Yun Yang, the General Commerce League's surrender was more than a pie that had fallen from the sky. It was more like a peach sent to his mouth. Other than being rich, powerful, the General Commerce League was also a superior class celestial luck banner sect. It had the same status as the residence of 9 Supremes and was even more deserving of its name. After all, it had ascended to the ranks of superior class celestial luck banners based on its own ability, while the residence of 9 Supremes was only blessed by Yin Yang's strength. Why would such a behemoth ask to be merged into the residence of 9 Supremes? Isn't this a little too childish? Or perhaps, the General Commerce League had other intentions? Yun Yang squinted and said cautiously, Chief Shao, I don't quite understand what you're saying. Could Chief Shao please clarify? Ji Lingxi, Shengguan Lingxiu, Shi Wuchen, and the others who were standing beside Yun Yang raised their heads in unison upon hearing his words, an eerie glint flashing across their eyes. As the saying went, everyone shared the same thought. Amidst the momentary shock, everyone thought of the General Commerce League's intention of coming. So what if they said it nicely? If their real intention was to pluck the fruits of the residence of 9 Supremes, so what if they wanted to swallow the residence of 9 Supremes instead? If that was the case, then the General Commerce League was thinking too much. Looking at everyone's expression, Xiao Wui, who was well versed in the ways of the world, understood that they had misunderstood. Chuckling humorlessly, he explained, Everyone, please don't misunderstand. The merger we're talking about doesn't mean that both parties will rule together, but that the General Commerce League will only obey the residence of 9 Supremes from now on. The General Commerce League will only be a branch of the residence of 9 Supremes from now on, that's all. Of course, if there's a need, it's not impossible to break up the League and merge it into the residence of 9 Supremes business system. Yun Yang frowned and asked suspiciously, the General Commerce League is one of the few business leaders in the Bound of Universe and a newly ascended sect with an upper-class celestial luck banner. With Chief Xiao's identity as the League's leader, why are you so aggrieved? There must be a reason for this, right? Xiao Wui was struck with a sudden realization, judging that Yun Yang had probably just returned to the residence of 9 Supremes and did not quite understand the scale of the business under the residence of 9 Supremes and the terrifying impact it had on the General Commerce League. He felt even more exhausted, and after a pause he said, Times make heroes and heroes are more relevant to the affairs of the world. I'll be clear with Leader Yun, it's like this. After the long speech, Xiao Wui was almost weeping from the grievance. It was a history of blood and tears. This is the reality. The General Commerce League is already struggling to cope and can't go on. On the other hand, the business under the residence of 9 Supremes has only just started. Once it develops in the long run, when it comes to ascending and building palaces in the future, we'll only be worse off. I'm afraid that after some time, the hundreds of thousands of people in the General Commerce League won't even be able to afford food. Therefore, after our discussion, since we can't rival the residence of 9 Supremes and we don't want to be enemies with them, why don't we merge into one? The main survival of the General Commerce League is based on business, so merging into the residence of 9 Supremes business system is the right thing to do. Even if there's no more General Commerce League in the future, it's not a bad thing for us to be able to belong to the residence of 9 Supremes. In fact, it's a great thing. Xiao Wui spoke with conviction, but his tone was sobbing. Just like what he had said to Lang Fantian, the merger was a good thing for everyone in the General Commerce League, but it was not a good thing for him. This was because he was no longer the boss whose words carried weight and stood above the masses. Instead, he was a minor character who could not even make it into the top 20. Listening to Xiao Wui, Yun Yang was speechless for a good while. There's actually such a thing? With a frown, he glanced at Chen Duo beside him and slammed the table angrily. Chen Duo, is this how you do things? Chen Duo paled. This, Xiao Wui said quickly, Actually, this matter has put us in a difficult spot, but business is business. We can't blame Keeper Chen no matter what. It's also made us realize our own shortcomings. The basic operating system of the General Commerce League has always been based on business. The strong preys on the weak, this has always been the truth. Just like how this old man has worked hard to raise the sex level. Although I was lucky to advance, getting to the upper class level is already the General Commerce League's limit. There's no way to advance further, not to mention the fact that the General Commerce League has a large number of people. It's inevitable that people's hearts will be irresponsible. An organization like the General Commerce League is destined not to exist for long. Even if we don't attach ourselves to the residents of 9 Supremes now, we'll definitely be annexed by other sects in the future. Wealth has to match one's ability after all. Today we've made this decision just to prepare for a rainy day. It has nothing to do with anything else. Xiao Wui's tone grew more sincere as he said, "Once we merge, this old man will naturally withdraw from the management and no longer be involved in any business-related matters. I'll concentrate on my cultivation. Everything that happens in the General Commerce League will be handed over to Keeper Chen to handle." Yun Yang pondered, glancing at Ji Lingxi and the others from the corner of his eyes. He saw that everyone looked surprised as well. How could such a thing happen? Qian Duo had expanded the commercial activities of the residents of 9 Supremes due to the sudden increase in his sect's power, intentionally or unintentionally pushing an upper-class celestial luck banner sect, the leading business force of the world, to a desperate situation? If the General Commerce League's leader had not said it himself, who would believe it? Yun Yang glanced at them again, his fingers lightly tapping on the armrest as he finally asked indifferently, "What do all of you think?" "It's up to you, boss. We have no opinion." Shi Wuchen and the others spoke in unison. Each of the Demiurge Flawed 10 was a cultivation maniac. They were not interested in mundane affairs other than cultivation, not even interested in thinking about it. Business? What the hell was that? Since Chief Xiao is so sincere, the residents of 9 Supremes and the General Commerce League are indeed mutually beneficial. Yun Yang only thought for a moment before agreeing. Then I'll take the liberty and agree to merge the General Commerce League with the residents of 9 Supremes. But there's one thing I need to say first. There are too many people in the General Commerce League. When both sides merge, the residents of 9 Supremes must sort out the original members of the League to a certain extent. It's impossible to accept all of them without screening. The first priority of the residents of 9 Supremes now is to prepare for the war. Once the merger is completed, all experts above the level of Royal Saint will be included in the pre-war intensive cultivation. These people will no longer be able to interfere with the business of the General Commerce League. That's right. Xiao Wui nodded. No matter which family they belonged to, their power was bound to be seized. In fact, it was not these cultivation experts who controlled the business of the General Commerce League, but those who were business-minded. When the residents of 9 Supremes takes over the original trade routes and shops of the League, we need to check the accounts and make new arrangements. Yin Yang looked at Chen Duo. "I'll leave this matter to you." Chen Duo's fighting spirit was unprecedentedly high, almost glowing. "Don't worry, boss. The residents of 9 Supremes will definitely be the best in the world in terms of business. No one can compete with me." Whether or not you can be the best in the world who can compete with you, these are all matters of the future. The most important thing now is to integrate and confirm your own situation. This must be done as soon as possible. We don't have so much time to waste. "Yes, understood." Yun Yang was silent for a moment before saying, "Everyone go back to your duties and get started immediately. Also, the merger ceremony 20 days later, include the General Commerce League." At this moment Yun Yang felt a strange feeling rise in his heart. Initially, I only wanted to slowly swallow the Phoenix Cry sect. But now, before the Phoenix Cry sect could say anything, the residents of 9 Supremes and the more powerful General Commerce League had already joined in. "Tell me who can reason with this matter." Before he could finish his thought, someone at the door suddenly said loudly, "Since the General Commerce League can be added, please include the Phoenix Cry sect as well." Gan Tianyan and Ping Jinhua stepped in. The two sisters had discussed for a long time. Ping Jinhua was still a little undecided at first. After all, this was related to her legacy. Unexpectedly, the first thing she heard when she came to the residence of 9 Supremes was that the General Commerce League had taken the initiative to ask to merge with the residents of 9 Supremes. Ping Jinhua panicked. The General Commerce Alliance was an upper-class sect, and its status was above that of the current Phoenix Cry sect. It had just been promoted to an upper-class celestial luck banner sect not long ago, so it should be in the limelight. Why did it take the initiative to ask to be merged? But no matter what, after this incident, the Phoenix Cry sect's position was awkward. If they asked to merge again, what would they do if they didn't want to? Even if they didn't mind, with the merchant union in front of them, the Phoenix Cry sect's position would definitely be lowered. Ping Jinyue was filled with endless regret. She had been one step too slow. If she still could not insert herself at this juncture, she would really fall behind forever. A bright smile hung on the corners of Yun Yang's lips. Very well. The plan was set. Yun Yang did not need to worry about other matters. I only want 3 things. It has to be fast, reliable, and without any future troubles. Yun Yang's request was simple. It was these few words that represented the merger of the 4 schools. It would not be an exaggeration to say that the matters involved could be piled higher than a mountain if they were listed out one by one. Qian Duo did not find it troublesome at all. On the contrary, he was in high spirits, full of passion and arrogance. Yun Yang arranged for a few people to assist in this matter. The chief commander was Shangguan Lingxiu. Although he was called the chief commander, he was actually a hands-off boss who was only responsible for listening to the reports every few days. Shangguan Lingxiu was a marshal, so only the most important and final decisions needed to be made. It would be strange if he was asked to handle other trivial matters. The deputy chief commanders were Qian Duo, Gu Chaoyang. All matters, big or small, would be decided by both of you. Whatever manpower you need, whatever support you need, just tell me directly. The only request was to complete the task well. Lord Heaven's Inquisition almost cried when he heard the appointment. I've only just merged. No, the ceremony hasn't even been held yet. Why is there such a huge mountain pressing down on me? Looking at little Fatty's excited expression, Gu Chaoyang felt like dying. What was the purpose of him learning so much and so many things back then? Was it just to do odd jobs? If he had been like Ling Xiaozui and Duguqiu, only focusing on martial arts and training himself to the point that his brain had become a block of wood, would he not have been involved in this matter today? Other than Shangguan Lingxiu, Gu Chaoyang, and Qian Duo who were the leaders, the residents of 9 Supremes had sent another 500 people, the General Commerce League had also sent hundreds of people, and there were also more than 20 people from the residents of 9 Supremes and a dozen from the Phoenix Cry sect. The number of people involved was massive. It was a pity that these manpower were only a drop in the bucket when it came to the task to be handled. How could they take care of everything? Just when many of the experienced Taoists were worried, Qian Duo roared excitedly, causing Gu Chaoyang, who was closest to him, to faint. Enough. With these people's help, anything is enough. Gu Chaoyang really wanted to die. Do you F*King know how many things need to be handled when a few sects are merged? Just move your F*King mouth and shout that it's enough. I want to beat you to death now, you fat bastard, do you know that? No matter what, the amalgamation of the 3 major sects into the residence of 9 Supremes had begun. The forces of the 3 major sects had entered the residence of 9 Supremes in advance. While the remaining tasks were numerous and burdensome, they were all trivial matters at the end of the day. Putting Qian Duo aside, Gu Chaoyang and the rest had begun their work in full swing. The residents of 9 Supremes had sent out 3 peak masters, each with a few disciples to oversee the area. Their main task was to kill. In a matter as big as the amalgamation, there would definitely be those who would fish in troubled waters and stir up trouble. There would also be those who had been fattened long ago and were unwilling to give up. There would also be those who would jump up and down to reap the benefits. Yun Yang only had one thing to say to this kind of people. Such a chaotic situation should be dealt with severely. Change the League's 36 laws to 36 killings. Those who violate this rule shall not be punished alive, only death. Don't let them go unjustly. The ruthless decision left Xiao Wui, Ping Jianyue, and the rest speechless, filled with admiration. At this moment, conciliation would only delay the timing. Only the most extreme and forceful method could complete the amalgamation in the shortest time possible. To put it bluntly, conciliatory actions were like a compromise. Even if it was an argument, it could last for 10 years. Now that the 36 killings were right there, they dared to try and blow it up? This was undoubtedly the most direct, straightforward, and effective guarantee. The residents of 9 Supremes' hero invitations were truly spread throughout the bound of universe this time. The entire world was shaken and stirred once more with the spread of the invitations. All the sects with celestial luck banners received the invitations, regardless of whether they were lower, middle, or upper-class sections. Even the 3 celestial palaces at the pinnacle of the bound of universe received the invitations. Those who were still qualified to receive the invitations were probably the few most famous families. The Qian family, the family of commerce, the Li family, the family of weaponry, and the Xikong family, the family of elixirs, had also received the invitations. After that, there were no other forces that were qualified to receive the invitations from the residents of Nine Supremes. However, the residents of Nine Supremes' action itself was enough to shake the entire world. A total of 3 sects had merged into the residents of Nine Supremes. 2 of them were middle-class sects and 1 upper-class sect. Such a thing was shocking in itself. Throughout the millions of years of the Bound of Universe's history, such a thing had never been heard of, but today it had happened. Lord Supreme Cloud had slaughtered his way back from the demon race, annihilating countless demons wherever he passed. His achievements were brilliant and meritorious, and the first thing he did after returning to his sect was to merge the 3 sects. Such extravagance caused everyone to be flabbergasted, and they were extremely shocked. This was Lord Supreme Cloud. This was the Bound of Universe's hero. Countless people exclaimed at the top of their lungs and roared in a hoarse voice, "Amazing!" Most of the trivial matters had been arranged. Even the training of the troops would be carried out by Shi Wuchen, the cultivation maniacs, and Dong Qitian, the top-notch expert. Yun Yang, on the other hand, had nothing to do during this period of time. He accompanied his 2 fiancées on a sightseeing tour every day, strolling here and there. He was so happy that he forgot his duties and was happier than a deity. As time went by, the high-end combat forces of the General Commerce League, the residents of Ninth Supremes, and the Phoenix Cry sect gradually gathered at the residence of Nine Supremes, especially the core disciples. However, the celestial luck banners of the 4 sects had not been merged yet, so the cultivation progress of these latecomers was naturally not as good as that of the residents of Nine Supremes' own disciples. Nevertheless, under the invasion of such rich spiritual qi, their cultivation progress was still much faster than before. Among them, the happiest were the children who had been picked up by the Phoenix Cry sect. Now that they had returned to the residence of Nine Supremes, many of them were crying with excitement. Shi Wuchen and the others couldn't bear to see this. Their minds raced, and they suggested to Yun Yang whether they should give these children special treatment. After all, it was due to the sect's strategic intentions that these children had been delayed for a long time. Now they had fallen far behind their peers. When Yun Yang heard this question, he did not say anything, nor did he show any attitude. He just stared at Shi Wuchen and the others for a long time, then turned and left as if nothing had happened. He did not say yes, nor did he say no. Shi Wuchen and Luo Dajiang looked at each other, speechless and confused for a long time. "What do you mean? Do you agree or not? Give me an answer." "Idiot." When Luo Dajiang mentioned this when he went back in the evening, he was immediately despised by Jiang Luo. "You 2 idiots actually went to ask the sect leader about this? What do you want the sect leader to say? What can he say? There is bound to be a debt and compensation, but how can this compensation be done openly? Can't you do it secretly?" In short, the sect leader doesn't know anything, and you are manipulating everything in the dark, understand? Luo Dajiang argued. Manipulating everything in the dark? Then aren't we overstepping our authority? Jiang Luo sighed helplessly. Haven't you already reported it? Yes, but the boss didn't say anything. Luo Dajiang became more and more confused. Sigh. Jiang Luo felt like vomiting blood. The fact that the boss doesn't speak is already a kind of attitude, understand? Do you know what tacit consent is? Jiang Luo was exhausted. Just do it. Of course, it's best not to do it yourself and order your disciples to do it. The disciples you want to get special treatment should have good friends in the sect who are the same age and the same batch. Even if the truth comes out, it's just the disciples acting on their own. Even if the other disciples feel something, they won't be able to say anything. Do you understand? Luo Dajiang frowned and calculated with his fingers for a long time. Finally, he was enlightened and beamed with joy. I understand now. Ah. This has to be done secretly. I'll go look for Shi Wuchen now. There are people around everyone who understand. Before Jiang Luo could finish her sentence, Luo Dajiang was long gone. She could not help but hold her forehead and sigh deeply. Why is the man I like so stupid? Sacred Heart Palace? Zhan Wufei weighed the hero's invitation that he had just received in his hand. After a while, he sighed heavily. Palace Lord, since the invitation is here, let's go. The deputy palace lord beside him was puzzled by Zhan Wufei's arrogance. Why was he sighing at an invitation? Yin Yang, he doesn't have any good intentions. Zhan Wufei sighed. I'm afraid we'll be beaten up if we go. If I'm not wrong, the 3 heavenly palaces higher-ups will definitely attend this meeting. Once they're here, Yun Yang will very likely mention the residence of Nine Supreme's advancement. With the residence of Nine Supreme's current manpower, resources, wealth, and combat power, it's understandable that he'll use this opportunity to ascend to palace-level celestial luck banner. If that happens, we'll be in a passive position. Are you confident that you can withstand it? The deputy chief was tongue-tied. Why don't we not go? Not go? The hero's invitation is already here, how can we avoid it? Zhang Wufei gave the deputy chief a sideways glance. Indeed, we can't avoid it. The deputy chief sighed. They really couldn't avoid it. Who could avoid the target that Supreme Cloud had set his mind on challenging? Who would dare to avoid it? What should they do? Chapter 1398. Zhang Wufei rolled his eyes and said, "Contact the other lords. We, the 4 lords, will bring our elites over." The vice lord's eyes lit up. Deterrence? That's a good idea. No matter how great Supreme Cloud is, he's the only one with unparalleled combat power. No matter how strong the residence of 9 Supremes is, it's still weak. It might not dare to offend the 4 palaces at once. Deterrence my asterisk. Zhang Wufei grinned. What are you thinking? We're ranked second among the 4 palaces of the East Celestial Palace. Even if Supreme Cloud wants to challenge, he should challenge forth first. Let him challenge others and win. What's the harm in giving him the first place? We'll be able to keep our divinity ranks, the rest isn't important. He stroked his chin and said, if that's the case, it's not that embarrassing. I think with Yun Yang's insight and knowledge, if we're the only ones who go, there's a high chance that he'll challenge the Sacred Heart Palace directly. Even if we manage to retain our palace rank and fall to the 3rd place, it'll still be embarrassing if we're beaten up in public. The Vice Lord broke out in a cold sweat. Your idea is really unexpected, thought-provoking, and deafening. However, it's a good idea to let your fellow Taoist die instead of me, the East Celestial Palace. The Palace Lord is in seclusion. Who's going? Great Elder's white brows almost reached his chest as he asked with narrowed eyes. Everyone was silent. Go for what? I'm not going. As an elder of the East Celestial Palace, my cultivation base is lower than a sect leader with an upper-class celestial luck banner. I won't go, I won't embarrass myself. The others also had the same thought. Everyone had the same thought, it was nothing more than this. Great Elder's white brows twitched. Do you want me to go myself? No, I have to go myself this time. Everyone turned to look at the source of the voice. It was the Palace Lord, Dongfang Haoren, who looked much older, coming out of seclusion. It was the same with the Northern Wasteland Demonic Palace. I'll go myself. Beigong Lioli's face was dark. As for the West Heaven Holy Palace, Shiman Fanfu had set off with his men the moment he received the invitation. At least I have a reason to come out. The woman at home has really gone crazy. I'll use this as an excuse to hide. Time passed day by day, and the date of the Grand Hall was getting closer and closer. Time was approaching day by day. The residence of 9 Supremes was decorated with lanterns and streamers, a festive atmosphere filling the eyes. Almost every disciple was busy, so busy that they didn't even have time to cultivate, but everyone was so busy that they were in high spirits. Outside the mountain gate, the disciple in charge of welcoming the guests had a radiant glow on his face. He was in high spirits as he lined up for more than 10 miles. There was a sea of people with colorful flags waving in the wind. By now, the heroes of Jianghu from the 3 mountains and 5 peaks had already gathered in a large group. There were even more on their way. Compared to the disciples who were already very busy, the higher-ups of the residence of 9 Supremes were just as busy. As soon as the news of the 3 great sects joining the residence of 9 Supremes spread, it caused a huge reaction in a very short time. It was a chain reaction, so many lower-class celestial luck banner sects came to the residence of 9 Supremes to ask for the merger, and a few days later, even the middle-class sects sent their men over. In total, 9 middle and lower-ranked sects belonging to the Sacred Heart Palace had come over in just 7 days. All of them requested to be incorporated into the residence of 9 Supremes. Yun Yang's response was simple and crude, he rejected all of them. In all fairness, since the sects were qualified to join the Celestial Luck Banner sects, they naturally had their own forces. If the residence of 9 Supremes absorbed all 9 Celestial Luck Banner sects, the scale of the sect would definitely rise to a higher level. The so-called palace-level promotion would not even need to go through the motions. However, how could Yun Yang be so short-sighted? His current force had already reached the limit that the residence of 9 Supremes could control. If he expanded blindly, it would instead make the structure of the residence of 9 Supremes too bloated and difficult to operate freely. After all, whether it was the new residence of 9 Supremes, the General Commerce League or the Phoenix Cry sect, each of them had a close relationship with the residence of 9 Supremes. If they merged and restrained each other, they could get along harmoniously. However, if other sects were to join in, it was inevitable that something dirty would happen. Moreover, the merger of the residence of 9 Supremes with the Phoenix Cry sect and the General Commerce League was already equivalent to cutting a knife into the Sacred Heart Palace. Even if the Sacred Heart Palace was large and prosperous, they would not be too concerned about a sect that was in the top 3 of the middle class and an upper class sect that mainly focused on business, but they would still lose 2 subordinate forces at once. If that was all, based on Yun Yang's friendship with Zhang Wufei, and considering that the Phoenix Cry sect and the General Commerce League had a close relationship with the residence of 9 Supremes and had a very deep foundation, the merger was just a matter of pushing the boat with the current, an irresistible trend. However, it would be too much to take in all these small sects. Even if the Sacred Heart Palace did not become a commander without an army, it was bound to be destroyed. Yun Yang did not want to bear this impact at all. The various sects and palace masters were probably already on their way to the residence of 9 Supremes and would arrive in a few days. After all, Supreme Cloud's reputation was like the sun in the sky now. How could they not give him face at this juncture? However, Yun Yang had never expected that among all the guests, the one who had arrived the earliest and the fastest was actually the most important person. The main peak of the residence of 9 Supremes. Yun Yang had just finished his work and returned to his room. In front of his 2 fiancées, his fox head had been seen hundreds and thousands of times anyway, so there was nothing he could not look at. He took off the hood and sat on the chair, holding his fox head high as he picked up a bowl of water and gulped it down. Wiping his mouth, he exclaimed, "Awesome!" Ji Lingxi glanced at him from the corner of her eyes. "So, when you're in human form, you're quite mindful of your image and demeanor. Why aren't you mindful of it now that you're a fox head? Look at you, you've even drunk a bowl of water all over your clothes. You're a palace's supreme leader, mind your image?" Yun Yang smacked his lips. "It's not my own face that I'm wearing anyway. Even if I'm embarrassed, it won't be my face." With a light wave of Shangguan Lingxiu's hand, the spiritual qi of heaven and earth gathered and poured down as spiritual liquid. Within the span of a dozen breaths, a full pot of spiritual liquid had been gathered. In the next moment, Shangguan Lingxiu's palm was lit abruptly. She was using her hand as a stove to boil water. A moment later, the water was boiling. Shangguan Lingxiu served a cup of hot tea to both Yun Yang and Ji Lingxi before she said with a smile, "Lingxi, you don't know this. Lord Supreme Cloud must be thinking that he doesn't need to maintain his demeanor anymore since he's annexed us. That's why he's so unrestrained." Ji Lingxi pursed her lips. "Why don't I know? I know it very well. I'm not like someone who's been coaxed by a few sweet words and has long forgotten where he stands." "Who are you talking about?" Shangguan Lingxiu blushed. "I'm talking about whoever answers me. What's wrong with talking about you?" "Humph." Yun Yang put on the air of a family head and said with a straight face, "What's going on? What's going on? We're all family now, why are you still throwing a tantrum?" Lingxi apologized to Sister Lingxiu quickly. Lingxiu apologized to Sister Lingxi quickly and shake hands. "You're all good sisters who share the same bed after all." Lord Supreme Cloud's earnest words were met with a flurry of blows. "Beat him up. Pervert. Lecher. Shameless." Faced with the encirclement of 2 top experts, Yun Yang scurried away with his head in his arms. The 2 girls chased after him relentlessly, their faces flushed with embarrassment and anger as they attacked mercilessly. Good sisters sharing the same bed. Whose bed? It would not do if they did not give this bastard a good beating. Yun Yang ran in circles, his hands covering his head as the 2 girls chased after him. Even when Lord Supreme Cloud begged for mercy, the 2 girls did not let him go, showing no intention of holding back. Amidst the chaos, they seemed to be enjoying themselves. Suddenly, Yun Yang felt a jolt in his heart as he stopped running. Following his train of thought, his gaze turned unusually sharp. Although the 2 girls' cultivation base was no less than Yun Yang's, their combat skills had not been elevated to a corresponding level. They did not notice the anomaly immediately and almost fell when they bumped into Yun Yang. It was only after a pause that they realized something was wrong. Further away from the window, a person was standing in the air with his arms behind his back, looking at the 3 of them indifferently. "Who is it?" Ji Lingxi and Shangguan Lingxiu yelled at the same time in embarrassment and anger. They stood in front of Yun Yang in unison, shielding him. Both girls were struck with a sudden realization. This person could actually ignore the residents of Nine Supreme's mountain guarding formation and come so close without them knowing. His cultivation base was unfathomable, even higher than theirs. Such an ability should belong to the pinnacle of this world, even the level of a saint. Yun Yang might not be able to withstand such an expert, but the two of them could withstand any attack. Naturally, they would be the front line. Perhaps they could counterattack and kill the enemy while he was careless. It was necessary to eliminate the threat as soon as possible. The person outside the window smiled faintly and looked at Yun Yang. "Aren't you going to invite me in?" Yun Yang sucked in a deep breath. "The residence of Nine Supremes is honored by your presence, Palace Lord Shiman. Please come in." Palace Lord Shiman? Ji Lingxi and Shengguan Lingxiu looked at each other in shock. The person before them was the leader of Western Heaven Holy Palace, Shiman Fafu? Why had this expert come so early? No wonder the mountain guarding formation that had stopped countless enemies and no outsiders had ever been able to invade had no response. It was because of this person. Yun Yang invited Shiman Fafu in personally and they sat down as host and guest. Ji Lingxi served him tea personally, but rather than saying that she valued him, it was more like she was worried. After all, Yun Yang had directly killed this person's biological son. Especially during this period of time, he had heard many rumors about the West Heaven Saint Palace. The rumor that the palace master Shiman in front of him was afraid of his wife had already spread far and wide. Even if he didn't care about it back then, how could he not care about it now? "Palace Lord, you've lost a lot of weight recently." Yun Yang tried to strike up a conversation. Truth be told, he had the same thoughts as Ji Lingxi and Shengguan Lingxiu. He did not have much confidence in himself. Why had this expert come so early? There were still a few days before the grand ceremony. Shiman Fafu sighed softly. "If you encounter something like me, you'll lose a lot of weight too. Perhaps you'll look even more haggard than me." "I won't encounter something like this." Yun Yang was annoyed. This old man was obviously cursing him. Ji Lingxi, who was standing beside him, said lightly, "Palace Lord Shiman, you're worrying too much. When we have a child in the future." She suddenly blushed as she spoke. After all, it was still embarrassing for a young lady to talk about having a child. "We'll definitely educate him well. We won't let him do anything outrageous." In spite of this, Miss Ji still finished her sentence. Shengguan Lingxiu, who was blushing as well, nodded her head firmly. Shiman Fafu smiled faintly. "Then I wish you a successful wish in advance." After a pause he said, "I'm more than willing to believe that you'll be able to educate your child well. With the few of us old fellows as an example. I don't think we'll miss it if we avoid and take precautions." Shiman Fafu was lost in thought. He was thinking, what if I had kept a closer eye on them? Wouldn't I have just let them be? Wouldn't the situation have turned into what it was now? "Thank you for your auspicious words, Palace Lord." Yun Yang laughed. "Still, Palace Lord, you've come so early." Yun Yang is truly surprised. Shiman Fafu looked at Ji Lingxi and Shengguan Lingxiu meaningfully. "I'm also willing to believe that you'll be faster than me in the future." Yun Yang was speechless. F***CK, can't we have a pleasant conversation? You're forcing your pain onto my head, making my pain even more painful, to the next level. After a few words, Ji Lingxi and Shengguan Lingxiu were relieved to see that Shiman Fafu had come with a kind intention. After all, the man before them was one of the top experts in this world. He must have weighed the pros and cons. Thus, the two ladies left to attend to their own matters. After all, the residents of Nine Supremes had too many things to handle now. With both of them watching over it, it would be helpful. "I've come a few days in advance. My main purpose is to relax and to seek refuge at the same time," Shiman Fafu said with a bitter smile after seeing that the two ladies had left for a long time. Refuge. Yun Yang did not understand what he meant. He had a vague idea but he could not voice it out loud. Sigh. Shiman Fafu's sigh was extremely bleak. "It's good that your son is dead, lest he continues to be the laughingstock of the world. I accept it and understand your choice and actions even more. To be honest, when I dream about it at night, I wish I could have done it earlier so that so many heroes and old friends wouldn't have to suffer. But it's hard to explain to his mother." During this period of time she kept shouting that she wanted to seek revenge on you. Even after I went back and started to investigate, verifying all the evil deeds one by one and placing them in front of her. Only then did she finally give up on the idea of seeking revenge on you. Yun Yang did not say anything but he was deeply moved. As a parent, no matter what mistakes their son had committed, it was inevitable that they would be filled with resentment when their son was killed. It was reasonable for them to seek revenge on the person who killed their son. This was not about right or wrong, it was only about personal grudges. To be able to be as righteous as Shimin Fafu and his wife, to let go of the grudge, it was rare even in the entire bound of universe. Shimin Fanfu said solemnly, "Actually, we aren't as great as you think we are. If I wasn't the master of the Western Heaven Holy Palace and didn't have such a heavy burden on my shoulders, even if I knew that my son was guilty of so many crimes that even death cannot wipe away his crimes, I would still not be able to stop myself from seeking revenge on you. However, your survival is related to the survival of the mysterious yellow human race. All I can do is to swallow my anger. Perhaps, after the demon invasion is completely quelled, I will suddenly seek revenge on you. It's not impossible for that to happen." Yun Yang said with respect, "Palace Lord, you're exaggerating. To be able to do this is already commendable. No matter what happens at that time, it's only about the standpoint, nothing else." Shimin Fafu chuckled bitterly and murmured, "Commendable? If it's really commendable, how can I not even teach my own son well?" He did not say a word, lost in thought for a long time. After a long time, Shimin Fafu continued, "Also, although my wife has understood the cause and effect of this matter, the hatred in her heart is still difficult to erase. She can't seek revenge on you, but it doesn't stop her from transferring it all to me. My days have been unspeakably bitter. Why is that?" Yun Yang was puzzled. Shimin Fafu wore a smile that was uglier than a crying face. "She said that it's all my fault that our son has come to this state today. I only cared about Western Heaven Holy Palace and didn't care about my own son. She also said that our son was so obedient when he was young, how could he become so greedy? Isn't it because he's imitating me as a father? Anyway, I'm to be blamed for our son's death?" The corners of Yun Yang's lips twitched. "This theory was F***king? Alright, this theory was F***king irrefutable. That day, I was so tired that I took a short nap. When I opened my eyes, I saw this woman slashing at my neck with a large knife. She wanted to murder her husband." Shimin Fafu looked terrified. "Luckily, my cultivation base is still all right. I managed to escape with half of my neck severed. I was just in time for your invitation, so Yun Yang broke out in cold sweat. "Murder her husband? The person next to him slashed his neck with a knife while he was sleeping?" Even if he put aside the previous crime, he could not help but shudder at the mere thought of the scene. Shimin Fafu wiped his sweat away as well. "I plan to stay for a few more days this time. I'll go back after some time." He sat down dejectedly, his spirit drained like a rooster that had lost a battle. "But this isn't the way to go." Yun Yang could sympathize with him and began to worry for him. "What else can I do?" Shimin Fafu slumped on the chair, rubbing the space between his brows with 2 fingers. "Actually, I have an idea, but I don't know if I should say it." Yun Yang's eyes darted around as an idea came to him. "What is it?" Shimin Fafu asked without much hope. "Palace Lord, just work hard and let her give birth to another child." Yun Yang's eyes were sparkling as he said, "It shouldn't be difficult for you, Palace Lord, right? Also, Chapter 1399. He wasn't in a good mood. Then he would use it as an excuse to take a day off and rest. Take a day off for, "I am the Supreme, currently typing, please wait a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update." Chapter 1400. Shimin Fafu almost choked, his eyes bulging as he coughed. "Are you making fun of me? What kind of idea is this? It's not even a bad idea." "How is it a bad idea? Let me ask you, is the root of this matter because she lost her spiritual sustenance after the death of her son? As long as sister-in-law is given another spiritual sustenance, her extreme emotions will fade with time. This is definitely a good idea, the best idea. It's easier said than done." Shimin Fafu rolled his eyes. "As we martial artists cultivate to a certain level, our spiritual chi has long turned into our cultivation base. It's harder than ascending to heaven to conceive a child. I have an idea." Yun Yang was unperturbed as he spoke in a low voice. "Haven't you heard, Palace Lord? I have a mysterious territory called the Spirit's Grave. It can be exchanged for the chi of vitality, and the birth of creation is nothing to me." Shimin Fafu's eyes shone. "You only need to do this." Yun Yang whispered into Shimin Fafu's ears, one talking excitedly while the other listening thoughtfully. "How is it? Have you succeeded?" Yun Yang wore a perverted smile. Shimin Fafu thought about it for a long time but still shook his head. "It's still difficult. Her first reaction when she sees me is like seeing her nemesis. How can she sleep with me? Yun Yang's eyes were filled with surprise as he said, Palace Lord Shiman, the reason you're being hunted by sister-in-law isn't because your cultivation base is inferior, but because you love sister-in-law, am I right? When we return to the palace, capture her directly, then use force to create a huge incident. Shiman Fafu frowned, deep in thought, considering the feasibility. After that, it'll be a matter of course. I think after you have a child, sister-in-law will be accompanying the child for a very, very long time. Yun Yang's grin was perverted, but Shiman Fafu could not care less as he asked with a frown, Is this reliable? Yun Yang patted his chest. Reliable, absolutely reliable. Leave this to me. I've killed one of your sons and now I'll compensate you with another. It's just the chi of vitality, I'll give you a few more strands. That should do, right? Even if it doesn't work once, there's a second and third time. As long as you see her, grab her by force. Isn't that enough? Shiman Fanfu frowned, his expression changing constantly. Suddenly, he gritted his teeth and raged. Yun Yang, what F***king idea did you come up with? How can I be manipulated by you? Ah. Yun Yang was stunned. Shiman flipping extended his hand and gritted his teeth. You killed my son, so you should compensate me with 10 wisps of life energy. That is the minimum compensation. Hurry up and give it to me. Stop wasting time. Yin Yang was dumbfounded. Let me tell you, it's not because of that. I just remembered that you killed someone and then left. Do you know how much turmoil you've caused? 10 wisps of life energy. Not even one strand is missing. Yun Yang blinked a few times. Palace Lord Shiman Fanfu's expression was steely. Hurry up. Do you think the chi of life is like cabbages? You don't have it now. Alright, when you leave the residence of 9 Supremes, the chi of life will be yours. Yun Yang gritted his teeth. No, not now. I don't know you yet. You must have the chi of life if you dare to say so. What if he forgot and went back on his words? It was more important to settle the matter quickly. Alright. Yun Yang took out the chi of life and Shiman Fanfu enveloped it with a saint's deific consciousness. He kept it carefully and hollered, The hatred of my son's murder is irreconcilable. I wanted to kill you with a single palm strike, but for the sake of the world, Yun Yang was speechless, his face pale. You have to remember this clearly. This chi of life is the compensation you're giving me. Do you understand? It's not for some random matter. Do you understand? Shiman Fanfu said threateningly. Yun Yang nodded like a chick pecking at grains. Yes, I understand. If you miss a word, do you understand? Yes, I understand. Arrange a guest room for me, one that's quieter. All right. Shiman Fanfu walked out leisurely with his hands behind his back, following the disciple who was leading the way. Yun Yang sighed continuously in his room. *Sike. I might as well not have come up with this idea. At least the grudge has been settled, it's not a big deal. I've come up with the idea and the chi of life, I've sacrificed so much. But this old thing has actually turned against me. Your father had it all planned out. I was going to force him to help your father get rid of this fox head state. How did things turn out like this? He had not even had the chance to say it before he was dragged into a corner. Is your face that important? Shiman Fengfu came to the guest room and gave the disciple a space ring to send him away. He immediately used his saint power to seal off his room, and then the entire courtyard. Then he took out the chi of life that he had just obtained and separated it carefully, separating the 10 strands of chi of life clearly one by one. Then he quietly activated the life force of heaven and earth, wrapping them up carefully and collecting them one by one, sealing them in his body. Only after everything was done did he heave a deep sigh of relief. After such a long time, he finally had a true sense of relaxation. Not bad, as long as I have these. It's not impossible to have 10 sons if I do well. If there are twins or triplets among them, I have to consider this. With my ability, with this chi of life, I can make 20 to 30 of them. With this thought, he could not help but feel more relaxed. He closed his eyes and continued to fantasizing about the wonderful life that would follow. When I go back, I'll kill my way in and subdue her by force. Strip her, seal her origin, seal her cultivation base, seal her mystical chi, lest the woman struggles with all her might. What if she still wants to commit suicide? I have to subdue her all the time. When she shows signs of pregnancy, this trip to the residence of 9 Supremes is already worth it with just this one item. Your father is really going to make a comeback this time? Shiman Fanfu lay down happily, his hands supporting his head. When Dongfang Haoren and Beigong Liuli come, should I mention this idea? However, he would have to discuss it with Yun Yang and let him give it to the three of them when he took it out. After they accept it, I refuse to accept it, but I don't believe that they won't accept it. This way I can make fun of them for tens of thousands of years. Heh heh heh. The 2nd of September. This day had always been a big day, a good day by habit. The weather had never been bad. Whether it was a coincidence or fate, on this day every year, on the birthday of the legendary, handsome, dashing, omnipotent god of creation, the weather was always so good. Midnight. Just as the first rays of dawn broke through the horizon, the residents of Nine Supremes emitted tens of thousands of purple chi that soared into the sky. At this moment, the boundless purple chi that soared into the sky dyed the tens of thousands of miles around the residents of Nine Supremes into a magnificent purple atmosphere. Then a thicker spiritual chi filled the air, filling heaven and earth. After a moment of brewing, the purple chi swirled even more violently in the air, swiftly forming 8 huge words. Majestic bound of universe, magnificent Nine Supremes. The 8 words rose slowly, stretching across the sky. Not only did they not dissipate, but they were also slowly flying up into the sky. As they rose, the words grew larger and larger, finally stopping at an extremely high point, as if they were embedded in the sky, illuminating the heaven and earth. The 8 huge words hung high in the sky. Even if one was hundreds of miles away, they could still see them clearly. They were so huge and eye-catching. Everyone who saw the words subconsciously felt the same way. Holy sh*T, this is amazing. This was too shocking, too sensational. Once they saw it, they could not help but want to submit to it. At the back mountain of the residence of Nine Supremes, Dong Qitian sat with his legs crossed, looking like he had eaten sh*T as he cultivated with all his might to maintain the shape of the 8 words. His mission today was to stabilize the 8 words with his cultivation base. It was not just for a while but for an entire day. King Hell? Dong Qitian cursed as he channeled mystical chi. It's fine if I don't have the chance to be in the limelight at such a grand occasion. What's all this talk about capable people doing more work? I'm still doing hard labor here for an entire day. It was not difficult to maintain the chi without dissipating and even leave a trace in the sky. As long as one had the cultivation base of a royal saint or above, it would be a piece of cake. However, to maintain it for an entire day, even a supreme saint expert might not be able to sustain it for such a long time. In addition, the chi that was condensed this time was extraordinary. It was the purest purple chi. Whether it was the energy or the volume, it was 1,000 times more than ordinary spiritual chi. With the size and height of the 8 words, even a supreme saint expert would find it hard to maintain it. In the entire residence of Nine Supremes, Dong Qitian and Yun Yang were the only ones who could do it. Although Ji Lingxi and Shengguan Lingxiu were improving rapidly and had reached the pinnacle of the supreme saint realm, their control over their powers was far from the duos. Therefore, the task of condensing chi and leaving a trace could only be done by Dong Qitian. The greater the power, the greater the responsibility. Was this sentence appropriate or inappropriate to be used in this situation? The first rays of the morning sun gradually rose, illuminating the land and spilling over the universe. The 8 words in the sky hung high in the sky like a rainbow, majestic and magnificent. Seeing that the appointed time had arrived, the gates of the residence of Nine Supremes opened slowly as an extremely dense wave of spiritual chi poured out. The disciples of the residence of Nine Supremes were all dressed in brand new clothes, full of vigor. Today was a big day for the residence of Nine Supremes, a day that no one cultivated. Since the moment the sun rose, an endless stream of congratulatory guests had begun to arrive. The leader of the Pure Sun sect and 3 elders are here to congratulate you. The leader of the Black Water sect and the elders, the Jade Tripod sect, Iron Sword League, countless sects had come to congratulate them. Among them were middle-class and upper-class sections. Although there was no lack of people from lower-class sects, with the residents of Nine Supremes' current strength and status, the congratulatory guests from lower-class sects could only enter silently. They did not have the right to be called out. They had to be at least middle-class sects and above to be called out. The person in charge of calling out the names here was the 3rd disciple of the residents of Nine Supremes, Hu Xiaofan. The child was full of chi and was born with a good voice, so it was a great job for him to call out the names here. However, the other main reason why he had taken on this responsibility was because he was not a person who knew his place. Yun Yang had long asked him to call out the names to prevent this little bastard from stirring up trouble on this big day. It would not be good if there were more complications. Hu Xiaofan stood at the mountain gate with his not quite stalwart body, his face filled with excitement, but there was still bitterness in his heart. It It was such a grand occasion with so many people. As the face of the residents of Nine Supremes today, it was glorious. But if he were to shout like this for the whole day, could his voice recover? Could it still be used? He could not help but touch the 3 big bottles of Snow Ridge throat moisturizer that he had prepared earlier in his spatial ring. He wondered if it would be enough. He also wondered if he would have time to drink it. As the gates of the residence of Nine Supremes opened, countless sects swarmed in. As for the guests who came, 100% of them were the sect leader himself. They brought along their carefully prepared gifts and entered respectfully with smiles on their faces. Then they were led by their disciples to their respective viewing platforms to take their seats. In less than an hour, Hu Xiaofen's mouth was already dry from all the shouting. He finally stole some time to drink some water, but he drank a large bottle to moisten his throat. However, he estimated that the crowd of congratulatory guests in front of him had only finished a small part of the song at most. There was still a large black mass of people in front of him. With things coming to a head, Hu Xiaofen, who could not turn the tables, braced himself and continued to sing at the top of his lungs with bulging veins. This boy is doomed today. It's not so easy to show his face. Bai Yexing, Yun Xiuxin, Sun Mingxiu, and the others who were also in charge of greeting the guests, all looked serious on the surface, but in fact they were laughing gloatingly through voice transmission. Who asked him to be so arrogant? Bai Yexing said through voice transmission without batting an eyelid. He actually talked nonsense in front of sect leader Master, saying that he wanted to defeat all the geniuses of other sects who have made a name for themselves in the Jianghu. Now he has angered sect leader Master, who has personally ordered him to be in charge of the singing. If it weren't for sect leader Master, the other uncle masters might not have been able to suppress him. Yun Xiuxin did not hide her gloating face. When he finishes singing, he won't have any energy for at least 3 to 5 days. If we find him to practice in the next few days, good idea. The others' eyes lit up. Sun Mingxiu and Yu Qinghang in particular were both older than Hu Xiaofan, and their cultivation base was higher than his at the beginning. But now Hu Xiaofan had long surpassed them. He kept walking in front of them every day muttering, "I had a new understanding yesterday. Why is it so easy to break through to the next realm? I wanted to settle down a little more, but why did I break through again?" His mouth was so vile that thousands of people cursed and despised him, and they had long wanted to teach him a lesson. After today, it was obviously a heaven-sent opportunity that they could not afford to miss. Thousand Leaves Sect, Hu Xiaofan's voice was full of energy. The few eldest disciples quickly gave up sending voice transmissions and led the guests in with humble smiles on their faces. Finally, Zhan Wufei, the master of Sacred Heart Palace from the East Celestial Palace, is here with 4 elders and 32 disciples to congratulate you. Finally, the name of the palace was announced. Hu Xiaofan almost burst into tears of joy when he saw them. I didn't expect this job to be so tiring. It's even more tiring than fighting for 3 to 7 days. It's really not a job for humans. The Sacred Heart Palace has come with a grand lineup, and the moment they lead us in is enough for me to catch my breath. To tell you the truth, when I write, no matter how tired I am, no matter how late I stay up, no matter how painful my neck and arms are, even if I have plasters on them every day, I'm still happy. I can write until I laugh, I can write until I cry, I can immerse myself in this world, and I don't even want to come out. I've been writing for 10 years, and this love has never changed. 'Cause I like it. But in these 2 days, this situation has made me want to leave this profession for the first time in my life. It's disgusting. It's normal for readers to report me for being reactionary, negative, violent, and improper, but it disgusts me when authors report each other maliciously. Can't you just write your own book? Chapter 1401. Zhan Wufei led the people of Sacred Heart Palace forward slowly, while the 99 senior disciples of Residents of Nine Supremes, who were waiting at the door, took a step forward and bowed at the same time. Then Lu Changman and Qing Jiejie walked out respectfully and led the way. So far, all the upper-class and mid-class sects had been led in by a disciple, and their seats were not close to the front. Now, Sacred Heart Palace had sent the top 10 disciples to lead the way, and they had sent 2 of them at the same time. The importance they attached to this event was evident. Now Lu Changman and Qing Jiejie were no longer mediocre people. They were also famous rising stars in the Jianghu. Disregarding everything else, when the 32 disciples of the Sacred Heart Palace saw the 2 of them, the look in their eyes changed. A few of them were especially cautious and full of fear, for they had suffered under the hands of these 2. The master of Sacred Soul Palace, Guanmai, is here with 4 elders and 32 disciples to congratulate. Another 2 senior disciples ranked in the top 10 came out to lead the way. The Master of Sacred Origin Palace, Lu Changfeng, is here with 4 elders and 32 disciples to congratulate. The Master of Sacred Divine Palace, Yu Wubian, is here with 4 elders and 32 disciples. At this point, all 4 palace masters of East Celestial Palace had entered. Yun Xiuxin and Bai Yexing exchanged a glance and saw the surprise in each other's eyes. When they looked at their junior brothers and sisters, they were also puzzled. Something doesn't seem right. It's not surprising that the 4 palace masters came, but why did they all bring the same people? Is this a coincidence? That's right, how can this be? There must be something strange. The 3 palace masters of West Heaven Sacred Palace are here. Look who they are. Hu Xiaofan's voice rang out suddenly. Another important guest had arrived. Duanmu Ping, the Master of Genius Palace of West Heaven Sacred Palace, is here with two elders to congratulate. Hu Xiaofan froze instinctively when he heard the names being called out, almost making a mistake. So many people have come from Sacred Heart Palace and the other palaces. Why is the sky of West Heaven Sacred Palace different from ours? Why are there only so few people? Only 3 of them? Behind the door, the disciples of residents of 9 Supremes who were already waiting to receive them were equally puzzled. How is this different? Western Heaven Holy Palace, Earthly Talent Palace's Palace Master Shang Piaoyun and 2 great elders have come to congratulate you. Another 3. Talent Hall. Yun Xiuxin's mood was strange and she felt that something was wrong. The 3 Talents Palace of the Western Heaven Holy Palace only sent 3 people each, but the 4 Sacred Palaces of the Eastern Celestial Palace actually sent so many people each, as if they're facing a great enemy. What's going on? There must be something going on here. Yun Xiuxin was uncertain, but her expression remained the same. After all, she was the eldest senior sister of the first-generation disciple of the residents of 9 Supremes. Bai Yexing leaned over and said in a low voice, "It seems that today's lineup is not simple. I'm afraid there will be a good show to watch later. We may not be the only protagonist today." Lin Xiaoro, who was standing at the side, said in a soft voice, "Do you think Sect Leader Master wants to use this opportunity to rush to the ranks of Palace Rank Gold Celestial Luck Banners? I think the number of people from the 4 major palaces of the Eastern Celestial Palace is just in line with the number of people who are going to fight." The sudden words from Qi Feng caused the eyes of the disciples to almost shoot out. "It's possible." Sun Mingxiu's eyes flickered as he said in a low voice, "No, it's not very possible. It should be a foregone conclusion." He made a prompt decision and said, "Get some good materials for Hu Xiaofan to recover his strength later and let this fellow recover. I'll go down and replace him. Everyone must recuperate and be ready for battle at any time. Today is a big day for the residents of 9 Supremes, so we must avoid all possible mistakes. Even if we're going to fight, we must win." All right. Although Yun Xiuxin was the eldest senior sister in name, everyone had an inexplicable confidence in Sun Mingxiu, and at the same time they respected him very much. Even though Yun Xiuxin and Bai Yexing's cultivation base was much higher than Sun Mingxiu's, they respected him very much in terms of conduct and behavior, and they obeyed him whenever he spoke. Even Hu Xiaofan, a fellow who did not play by the rules, dared to play dirty at most when he met Sun Mingxiu, but he dared not go any further. Among the disciples, Sun Mingxiu's strength was only at the middle tier, but his personal prestige was the highest. He could be said to be the one who had the most say in the residence of 9 Supremes after the elders. The next moment, Sun Mingxiu went up and replaced Hu Xiaofan. Hu Xiaofan jumped down impatiently and opened his mouth to speak, but his voice was already hoarse. "Holy sh**, old Sun is so reliable. I've been shouting for the whole morning. Oh my God, the more important the person is, the more I can't afford to make any mistakes. I'm about to collapse. This is the brotherhood of brothers. Old Sun, I'll remember you for the rest of my life. Stop talking nonsense. What matters most is to rest and recover your strength." Yu Qinghang reminded him in a low voice, "Remember to recuperate to your peak state. There may be a fierce battle later." Hu Xiaofan froze and said with a bitter face, "What? I'm almost exhausted now and I wish I could sleep for 3 days and 3 nights. You're telling me there's going to be a battle later?" Yun Xiuxin gritted her teeth and said, "Shut up. You only have 2 hours to recover at most. Anyway, if you're not in a good state later and embarrass the residents of 9 Supremes, Hu Xiaofan, you'll be completely embarrassed." Hu Xiaofan shut his mouth immediately. Without another word, he took out a few pieces of superior-grade spiritual jade and absorbed the spiritual energy from them in the most efficient way to recover quickly. Now that the matter was urgent, it would be a waste of time to say another word. If I don't hurry up and recover, something will really go wrong with me. Hu Xiaofan was not stupid. He had a more direct perception of the doubts that everyone had, and he not only had similar speculations, but he also had a sense of urgency. When Yu Qinghang said that there might be a battle, he immediately realized that his speculation had come true. Sun Mingxiu's sonorous voice rumbled and shook the clear sky. Xian Qianye, the Eastern sacred leader of the Demon Palace of Northern Wasteland, and 2 great elders are here to congratulate you. The East Celestial Palace was the 4 sacred palaces. The West Heaven Sacred Palace was the Palace of 3 Talents. The Demon Palace of Northern Wasteland was the 5 sacred leaders, who were divided into the East, West, South and Central sacred leaders. As the sacred lords of the 5 directions entered, the scene turned silent for a moment. Probably because the palaces of the 3 heavens were too powerful, the other sects did not dare to challenge them. It was not until a moment later that someone came again. Qian Xing, clan leader Jin of the Qian clan, the greatest financial magnate in the world, and 5 great elders of the Qian clan are here to congratulate you. 2 white-clothed disciples went forward to greet them just like before. However, Bai Yexing, Sun Mingxiu, and a few other meticulous disciples found that there seemed to be something wrong with the faces of these Qian clan members. Bai Yexing sent a voice transmission to Yun Xiuxin. Why does the Qian clan look a little strange? Yun Xiuxin said nonchalantly, no, it's just a financial magnate. What's so special about it? Bai Yexing rolled his eyes and thought to himself, this silly girl only knows how to improve her cultivation base and never cares about worldly affairs. Eldest senior sister, do you think this Qian clan has something to do with Majordomo Qian? Lin Xiaoro asked in a low voice. Bai Yexing's eyes flickered when he heard that. You guys stay here and watch. I'll go ask Majordomo Qian. Today is an important event in the residence, so we must be careful and not be careless. The crowd moved slightly, and Bai Yexing's figure disappeared in a flash. On the high platform, Sun Mingxiu's voice continued to ring out. Clan leader Li Changtian and 2 elders of the Li clan, the greatest family of divine weapons in the world, are here to congratulate you. Clan leader Xikong Jiuzhuan and 2 elders of the Xikong clan, the greatest family of elixir pills in the world, are here to congratulate you. After receiving the guests from the 3 great families, this stage of the reception came to an end for the time being. The arrival of the 4 sacred temples, 3 talents palace, 5 sacred leaders, and the 3 largest families in the bound of universe also meant that the curtain of the ceremony of the residence of 9 supremes had been completely lifted. One illustrious name after another was revealed, and the people of the martial world who were watching from the side felt enlightened and thunderous from time to time. Each of these names had once shaken the world and shaken the bound of universe. It could be said that they were no longer names but signboards and legends. As long as their names appeared, they could sweep away the giants of the martial world. In the distance, dark clouds suddenly rolled in the sky and the wind blew howling. In the next moment, the dark clouds that covered the sun had already reached the top of their heads. As the crowd looked over, they were shocked to see that the endless dark clouds were actually huge flying mystical beasts gathering in the sky. At the forefront was a mystical eagle. When it spread its wings, it was thousands of feet wide. Behind it were countless eagles, cranes, rocks, and eagles. In short, they were all large flying mystical beasts. As soon as these fellows came, they covered the sun and the sky. It would be strange if the sky did not turn dark. Those huge and densely packed wings had completely covered the entire sky. In the next moment, the leading mystical beast transformed into its human form and landed first, followed by the rest. Only then did the sky become bright again. Sun Mingxiu's excited voice rang out. Tian Fa Holy Land, Tiger King, Eagle King, Bear King, Snake King, Condor King, Leopard King, Crane King, Monkey King, Rock King, Wolf King, a long list of kings, have come to congratulate. Everyone was shocked again when they heard it and they began to discuss it. The Tian Fa Holy Land, which had always been secluded, had actually sent all of its king-level mystical beasts to congratulate them. The residence of 9 supremes was indeed extraordinarily prestigious. Every king of Tian Fa Holy Land brought 2 experts of the same clan and was led in obediently. Only laughter could be heard. Among them, Bear King's voice was the loudest. His laughter was like thunder. I heard that Brother Yun has good wine here. We must have a good time today. After about a quarter of an hour of silence, another heavyweight congratulatory guest arrived. First, a purple cloud suddenly appeared in the eastern sky, and 3 figures suddenly appeared in the distant sky. A 7-colored glow filled the world as they slowly approached. Everyone held their breath subconsciously. From the looks of it, the people from the 3 heavenly palaces had arrived. They just did not know who they were, but their presence was not small. Purple chi came from the east, gradually approaching the residence of 9 supremes. In an atmosphere of thousands of rays and thousands of auspicious colors, golden lotuses fell from the sky, creating a wonderful scene. Such a grand scene. Could it be that an elder-level character has come? Someone guessed. Perhaps it's the offerings. Amidst the multicolored light, 3 figures quietly appeared. Standing at the front was a middle-aged man with a handsome appearance. He was elegantly walking forward. With each step he took, countless golden lotuses would scatter in all directions and spin around him. Everyone who knew him could not help but widen their eyes. At this moment they were almost suffocating. Never in his wildest dreams did he expect that it would be this person who personally came. Sun Mingxiu's voice was filled with excitement as he called out the name. East Celestial Palace's Lord Dongfang Haoran has come to congratulate with Holy Sun Lai Kuangfeng and Great Elder Mo Qingtian. As soon as this voice came out, the entire mountain range, including the people from various sects and families who were chatting in the residence of 9 supremes, fell into a silent atmosphere. The East Celestial Palace's Lord, Dongfang Haoran. This big shot had actually come to congratulate them in person. This time, not only did Dongfang Haoran come in person, but he had also brought Lai Kuangfeng, the only remaining holy son of the East Celestial Palace. The third person who came was also the most powerful Great Elder of the East Celestial Palace. In the previous battle of 100 Lords United, 3 holy sons of the East Celestial Palace had fallen in the hands of Supreme Cloud. Now Dongfang Haoran had come in person, accompanied by the other 2 people whose status was second only to Dongfang Haoran. What did this mean? This was a very clear signal that could be seen at a glance. Subconsciously, countless people had a subtle feeling that their eyes were about to fall out of their sockets. Yun Xiaoxin, Hu Xiaofan, Lin Xiaoro, and Qing Jiejie stepped forward at the same time and bowed deeply. Palace Lord, please follow the disciples to the viewing platform. Master is preparing and can't welcome you. Please forgive me, Lord Palace Lord. It doesn't matter. Dongfang Haoran waved his hand and said, I'll wait here for a while. When those 2 fellows arrive, we'll go in together, lest you run back and forth. His words shocked Yun Xiaoxin and the others again. Did Dongfang Haoran mean that the other 2 palace lords who shared the same fame as him were coming as well? Soon the answer came. In less than the time it took to finish a cup of tea, auspicious clouds rolled in the sky again, and rays of light rose into the sky. In the west and north, a rainbow light similar to the one that had appeared when the people from the East Celestial Palace arrived just now flickered. As the light approached, purple clouds filled the sky, and golden lotuses danced in the air. The stars in the west flickered, and 2 figures suddenly appeared in the sky. They were Shimin Fanfu and Feng Patian, the holy son of the West Heaven Holy Palace. In the north, the sky darkened and then brightened again. In between the brightness and darkness, 3 figures appeared. The one who landed at the front with her hands clasped behind her back was Beigong Lioli, the palace lord of the northern wasteland demon palace. Behind her were the remaining 2 holy sons. The orchid pavilion of the illusory literary abyss. Dongfang Haoran and Shimin Fanfu exchanged a glance. A feeling that they did not know how to describe surged in their hearts. Why are we the only ones left while you have 2 left on your side? Doesn't this mean that our ability to judge and train people is not as good as the old devils? West Heaven Holy Palace, North Wasteland Demon Palace. Chapter 1402. When these 2 voices rang out, the entire residence of 9 supremes, which spanned tens of millions of miles, fell into a dead silence. The 3 lords of the heavenly palaces had arrived at the same time. The shock made everyone feel as if they were seeing stars. Their lives had not been in vain to witness such a grand occasion. When they saw the lords of the Sacred Heart Palace coming earlier, they already felt that this was a grand event that they had never seen in their lives. Who would have thought that there would be an even greater shock behind? At this moment, even the various hall masters and sacred lords felt dizzy and their heads were spinning. They had thought that they had given Supreme Cloud enough face by coming in person, but they did not expect the 3 lords to come as well. In comparison, the sense of superiority they had felt when they came was gone. One should know that even they didn't have many chances to meet the palace masters of the 3 sky palaces. When they went to report to the heavenly palaces, The ones who received them were either elders with real power or one of the sons of saints. It had long become a tradition. Now, a newly established sect had received the arrival of these three lords at the same time. It was unbelievable and unimaginable. The three lords looked at each other and smiled. Just as they were about to step in, they heard a shout. "You three wait for me." As soon as the voice rang out, everyone was shocked. Dongfang Haoren and the other two lords were already the pinnacle of existence in this world. It was difficult to find another person who could be on par with them. This knowledge had long been deeply rooted in the hearts of the Bound of Universe's cultivators. Now, there was actually another person who dared to say such a thing. Everyone looked towards the source of the voice in astonishment. The voice seemed to have come from an extremely far place, but the person had already arrived by the time the words were spoken. A figure suddenly appeared in the sky. In the next moment he had already landed and was laughing loudly. Python 9. Dongfang Haoren could not help calling out and laughed. "I didn't expect you to be willing to leave the holy land of heaven punishment. Is this considered moving after a long period of silence?" Everyone's thoughts were not wrong. In this world, before the grand ceremony of the residence of 9 Supremes, there was indeed no one who could be on par with Dongfang Haoren and the other two lords. Although the newcomer could be on par with them, he was not human. It was the mystical beast king of Tianfa Holy Land, Yun Yang's old acquaintance, Python Geo. Python 9 coldly snorted, "You three old fogies can even crawl out of your rat nest, so how can I not come? Besides, Yun Yang is a young brother that I've acknowledged. Our relationship is very different. I heard that he killed your son. This old man is afraid that you will bully him. Of course, I have to come and be your support." Beigong Liuli laughed and scolded, "You old geezer, you talk too much. Even if we really want to bully him, do you think you can stop us by yourself?" Python 9 grunted and said indifferently, "Perhaps I can't do it alone, but I can guarantee that so long as any of you dare to make a move, then it'll be the wrath of the heavenly beasts, and the profoundness universe won't stop at human cultivators." Upon hearing Mangzhou's words, the expressions of the three palace masters changed. The Xian beasts were all out of Tianfa, and Shen Huang was not just limited to human cultivators. The former had expressed his desire for the apocalyptic battle, while the latter had clearly stated his stance. The Holy Land of Tianfa would actually step foot into the world because of Yun Yang. This was too shocking to hear. "Shut up. You're crazy." Dongfang Haoren bellowed in a low voice, "What nonsense are you spouting on a joyous occasion?" Python 9 chuckled and said, "Since you know it's a joyous occasion, who are you trying to scare with your hypocritical attitude? Hurry up and go in. Are you going to stay outside for people to see? The young fellow over there, quickly send a message to this old man. Just say that your leader's big brother, Mangzhou from the Holy Land of Tianfa, is here." Sun Mingxiu was so shocked that his entire body was stiff, but he still managed to maintain his composure. Instead, a clear voice that was filled with enthusiasm rang out, "Oh my! The residence of 9 Supremes is honored by the arrival of the three palace lords and the Lord Saint of Divine Judgment. Your presence brings light to our humble dwelling and makes us feel honored. Yun Yang, please forgive me for not welcoming you earlier." The clouds in the direction of the residence of 9 Supremes suddenly dispersed. Yun Yang, the Demiurge Flawed 10, the various palace masters, holy lords, and sect leaders all came out to welcome them. He welcomed them in with the grandest of lineups. Lai Quangfing, Feng Patian, Huan Wenyuan, and Lanting felt as if a lifetime had passed when they saw Yun Yang again. Each of their expressions could not help changing as they averted their gazes, whether intentionally or not. Now that they saw Yun Yang again, the four of them could not help but feel a lingering fear. After all, the terror that Yun Yang had brought to them was indelible and irremovable. Although they had not participated in the chaos that the other chosen saints had stirred up during the night in the city and had only wanted to watch the show, Yun Yang's decisiveness in killing them was still vivid in their minds. Whenever they thought of it, they could not help but feel their scalps tingle and chills run down their spines. In one night, a total of 8 chosen saints had been killed by Yun Yang without batting an eyelid. In the face of the joint attack of dozens of saint lords, Yun Yang crushed them with an unstoppable force. He could still remember how he felt when he saw the blood light that shot into the sky from afar. He was a god of slaughter. Today, the masters of the 3 heavenly palaces, who had suffered a great loss in that battle, had come to congratulate him personally. The Holy Land of Tianfa had almost turned out in full force. All the beast kings had come and even the beast emperors had come. Looking at the one who had come last, he seemed to be on an equal footing with the 3 heavenly palaces, The four of them only had one thought now: thank God I was just there to watch the show and didn't make such an unbeatable enemy. Otherwise, especially Huan Wenyuan. Huan Wenyuan was not a bad person, but he had a foul mouth. Back then at the Golden Knight Tower, he had insulted Yun Yang time and time again, fanning the flames. His mouth had been a delightful one. Naturally his heart was pounding. This master wouldn't bear a grudge against me, would he? I really didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to watch the show and have a good time. Please don't. An entire hour had passed. The entire residence of 9 Supremes and the surrounding mountains and valleys, be it humans or mystical beasts, were silent. One could hear a pin drop. Those who attended the grand ceremony of the residence of 9 Supremes were all reputable figures in this world. Basically, all the pinnacle figures in the world were invited to the venue. Not only was such a grand event unprecedented, it was very likely that it would never happen again. At the back of the residence of 9 Supremes Hall, in an elegant quiet room, Dongfang Haoren and the others sat down peacefully and said kindly, "Actually, let's sit in the front hall. It's livelier to be together. There's really no need to make such a quiet place just for the four of us." Yun Yang chuckled and said, "Palace Lord Dongfang, you're too generous. It's better for all of you to sit here. If I really let all of you go to the front, I'm afraid the people outside won't even dare to speak loudly. This is my grand ceremony today, I don't want it to be as quiet as a graveyard. So, it's better for the few of you to gather here, haha." Shimin Fafu guffawed and said, "You're right. If a few of them really wet their pants, it'll add a lot of flavor to the ceremony. It's better for us brothers to gather together. Brother Yun's arrangement is very appropriate, very appropriate." Dongfang Haoren and Beigong Lioli turned to look at Shimin Fafu together, their eyes filled with surprise. This old man's emphasis did not seem to be right. It was fine that he spoke so kindly, but why did he even call him Brother Yun? What was going on? Dongfang Haoren frowned and stroked his chin, looking at Shimin Fafu suspiciously. He still remembered that this fellow had a lot of resentment towards Yin Yang that day. Even if he had put aside his grudge for the sake of the bigger picture, he could not possibly have undone the knot in his heart, could he? There was no need to talk about getting along harmoniously and calling each other brothers. Did he not care about his status? Beigong Lioli looked at Shimin Fafu with a dark expression as well. Beigong Lioli's expression had never been pleasant. His son had been killed, but he, as a father, could only pretend that nothing had happened. He had been holding in his anger even more than Dongfang and Shimin Haoren. Of course, it was impossible for him to do anything to Yun Yang based on his understanding of the bigger picture. However, Beigong Lioli had other thoughts. If the demonic race's chaos was quelled and everyone was safe, they might have to fight it out with Yun Yang. A man could distinguish between gratitude and grudges, a debt of gratitude and a vengeance of vengeance. However, now that he saw his son, who had also been killed, who had appeared to be much angrier than he was and who was a henpecked husband deep down, was actually calling Yun Yang brother, Beigong Lioli felt that her brain was not enough to process the situation. She could not understand it at all. Facing their baffled gazes, Shimin Fafu could not help blushing and said fiercely, "What are you looking at? Haven't you seen the imposing manner of an expert?" Stars flickered in Dongfang Haoren's eyes as his thoughts spun. After a long while, he said faintly, "Remember to talk to us after this." Shimin Fafu snorted and did not speak. After a long while he said, "All right." It was never a good thing to take everything for oneself, especially when the other two were on par with him. They were ruthless characters who could ignore their pride when the time came. The sun would never stop for anyone or anything. It continued to crawl slowly in the sky. It was almost noon. Suddenly, the bell of the residence of 9 Supremes rumbled and could be heard from all directions. There was already a sea of people in front of the grandstand. Even Zhan Wufei and other prominent figures were already standing in front of the grandstand. Everyone's gaze was focused on a huge stage. The stage was the peak of the mountain. At the top, a magnificent silver celestial luck banner fluttered in the wind, radiating thousands of silver rays that were dazzling. The bell rang for a long time while the sunlight grew warmer and more intense, finally shifting to the center. The auspicious hour has arrived. Heaven's Inquisition Gu Chaoyang, the MC, shouted, "The sun is in the middle of the sky. The residence of 9 Supremes is at its zenith. The auspicious hour has arrived. The ceremony begins now." In the next moment he gathered all his mystical chi and said loudly, "Let us welcome Lord Dongfang Haoren, the master of the East Celestial Palace, Lord Shimin Fafu, the master of the West Heaven Saint Palace, Lord Baigong Lioli the master of the Northern Wasteland Demonic Palace, and Lord Mang Jiao the master of Tian Fa Holy Land. Silhouettes flashed. Before Gu Chaoyang's voice echoed in the air, Dong Feng Haoren, Mang Jiao, and the other three had already appeared in front of the grandstand. East, west, north and south. Everyone bowed at the same time. They were expressing their deepest respect to these four supreme existences of this world. Let us welcome the master of the residence of Nine Supremes, Lord Heaven Yellow Supreme Cloud, to your position under the Celestial Luck Banner. Under the silver Celestial Luck Banner, a silhouette had appeared out of nowhere. The man was dressed in fluttering purple robes and wore a purple mask. He stood tall and straight, looking indescribably dashing. Let us welcome the residents of Nine Supreme Shi Wuchen and Luo Dajiang. Shi Wuchen and the rest, together with Qian Duo, ascended the stage in a line and sat around the residents of Nine Supreme's Celestial Luck Banner. Everyone looked unprecedentedly solemn. Let us welcome the leader of the Phoenix Cry sect, Ping Zhanyue, the leader of the residents of Nine Supremes, Ji Lingxi Shengguan Lingxiu, and the leader of the General Commerce League, Xiao Wui, with their celestial luck. In the eastern sky, a silver gleam flickered. It was Xiao Wui, holding a silver celestial luck banner with both hands as he approached slowly. In the western sky, a green gleam flickered as well. Ping Zhanyue raised the green celestial luck banner with both hands, her robes fluttering. In the southern sky, a green gleam flickered as well. Ji Lingxi and Shengguan Lingxiu stood on the left and right, holding the celestial luck banner together like fairies. The most important part of the merging ceremony was to combine the celestial luck banners of each school. However, when it came to combining the celestial luck banners, the leader of the school had to personally hold the banner and gather the faith of the masses. Only then could the celestial luck flow and belong to the merging school. Majestic Heaven Yellow Magnificent Nine Supremes. Gu Chaoyang sang loudly. Purple chi surged around Yun Yang as the residents of Nine Supreme's celestial luck banner left the ground and flew 3,000 feet, turning into a celestial luck banner that was 10,000 feet long in the air. The silver light on the banner was even more intense, more than 100 times stronger than before. At this moment, everyone felt a piercing pain in their eyes, unable to look straight at it. In spite of this, they were not frightened. Instead, they could faintly sense an aura that belonged to the Tao. Combine the celestial luck banner. Gu Chaoyang bellowed again. Ji Lingxi, Shengguan Lingxiu, Ping Zhanyue, and Xiao Wui flew up at the same time, sending the celestial luck banners they were carrying diagonally towards the residents of Nine Supreme's celestial luck banner in the air. At the end of their momentum, the four of them let go at the same time and stood quietly in the air. Only the three celestial luck banners continued to fly towards the residents of Nine Supreme's celestial luck banner. The two green celestial luck banners of the Phoenix Cry sect and the residents of Nine Supremes approached the residents of Nine Supreme's silver celestial luck banner first. With a soft whooshing sound, they began to spin rapidly around the silver celestial luck banner. In the blink of an eye, the two flags had already rotated 999 times. The residents of Nine Supreme's celestial luck banner's silver light shone brightly once more, illuminating the heaven and earth and shooting straight into the sky. In the instant the silver light shone brightly, the two green celestial luck banners disappeared. The crowd watched the magnificent scene with rapt attention. The height of the residents of Nine Supreme's celestial luck banner did not change, but the banner surface had abruptly doubled in size. The silver light that flowed on the banner surface was more tangible, but it was no longer glaring. Then, the General Commerce League's celestial luck banner that had stopped in the air a little later than the previous two green celestial luck banners moved once more, approaching slowly. Two silver celestial luck banners, one large and one small, fluttered in the air before they fell silent and remained motionless. In a flash, the residents of Nine Supreme's celestial luck banner's silver light soared once more while the General Commerce League's celestial luck banners grew dimmer. After about 100 breaths, the nearly dull celestial luck banners rushed into the residents of Nine Supreme's celestial luck banner and vanished. The residents of Nine Supreme's celestial luck flag, which had received the return of the three flags, did not stop moving. With a swoosh, it soared 1,000 feet into the sky and then the silver light gushed out again. No one present could see the celestial luck flag clearly now. Only the silver light that pierced through heaven and earth shone upon the vast sky and illuminated the universe. Chapter 1403. It was also at this moment that Yun Yang felt a slight movement in his meridians. His dantian hummed violently as all the mystical qi in his body rose abruptly, surging in his meridians like thousands of horses breaking free from their reins. At the same time, a large amount of pure spiritual qi came from all directions and gathered in this direction like a howling gale. All the disciples of the Residence of Nine Supremes, the General Commerce League, the Ninth Residence of Supremes, and the Phoenix Cry sect. Of course, all of them could now be called the Residence of Nine Supremes disciples. All of them felt their dantian's restlessness as spiritual qi surged and converged to form a spiritual tide that grew stronger and stronger, charging at the bottleneck of their bodies spontaneously. Shengguan Lingxiu Ji Lingxi Duckweed Yu Wui Lang Fantian, and the others felt the same as well. The spiritual qi tide in their bodies grew stronger as well, while the spiritual qi storm outside continued to fuse with it. Those present today were human ace cultivators and cultivation experts. How could they not know that the Residence of Nine Supreme Celestial Luck Banners had fused with 3 high-quality Celestial Luck Banners due to the merger? Now that the spiritual qi was nourishing, all the disciples of the Residence of Nine Supremes were greatly benefited. They could not help but feel envious, wishing that they could join the Residence of Nine Supremes at once to share the glory before them. As far as the eye could see, the aura of all the Residence of Nine Supremes disciples was condensing and rising rapidly. Many of them who were on the verge of breaking through broke through right away, and after the breakthrough, their spiritual accumulations continued to rise, as if there was still room for improvement. Silver threads invisible to the naked eye connected each person to the celestial luck banner in the sky. As the spiritual qi continued to pour into the Residence of Nine Supremes, those who came to watch the ceremony felt suffocated despite being envious. As thoughts flashed through their minds, they seized the opportunity of the spiritual qi storm to enter a state of cultivation. Everyone felt the mystical qi in their bodies growing at a speed visible to the naked eye. In fact, this was the main reason why everyone came after the invitation was sent out. Even those who did not receive an invitation rushed to come. This kind of grand ceremony was a great opportunity even for the spectators. However, none of the people present had expected that the gains from this trip would far exceed their imagination. Although it couldn't be said that they had reached the heavens in a single step, after today's experience, they would be able to improve a lot compared to before. Many people who had been stuck on the verge of breaking through for half their lives actually had a chance to use this opportunity to break through. The spiritual energy storm became more and more intense, as if it was endless and endless. Everyone present, whether they were from the Residence of Nine Supremes or not, closed their eyes and cultivated with all their might to improve their cultivation base. No one would ignore this opportunity and waste it. Of course, this was excluding high-level figures like Dongfang Haoran. Shimen Fanfu couldn't help but stare at the heaven-earth spiritual qi that was pouring in like a leak. The density of the heaven-earth spiritual qi is a little too exaggerated. This level is already not inferior to my Western Heaven Sacred Palace. Why is it still pouring in? This is another eye-opener for the Residence of Nine Supremes to be able to withstand such a large amount of heaven-earth spiritual qi. Beigong Liuli sensed for a moment and said, "It is indeed an eye-opener. I can't believe that other sects apart from the 3 heavenly palaces can actually have such a high density of heaven-earth spiritual qi. However, I'm afraid it's not necessarily still lacking compared to your Western Heaven Sacred Palace. I see that there's still more than enough heaven-earth spiritual qi. When it's all poured in, both sides should be about the same." Dongfang Haoran said indifferently, "I'm more inclined to believe that the Residence of Nine Supremes' spiritual qi will be a little more than that when the heaven-earth spiritual qi has finished converging. Besides, this is only the beginning. After an ordinary merging ceremony, the process of forcefully drawing the heaven and earth spiritual qi to gather the spiritual veins will only last about 2 hours. However, the Residence of Nine Supremes has merged 3 sects this time, and they're all high-leveled sections. I feel that this merging process will take at least 4 hours, won't it? According to the level of heaven and earth spiritual qi, after 4 hours not only will the spiritual vein below be completely formed, it will also be able to connect to all directions. In addition to the Residence of Nine Supremes' original foundation, Yun Yang's Saint Lord cultivation base, and the providence of his 2 fiancées, Dongfang Haoran exhaled. It's only reasonable that it surpasses the 3 heavenly palaces' spirit qi level. No way. Shimen Fengfu and Beigong Liuli were dumbfounded. "Look under my feet." Dongfang Haoran gestured. Both of them looked down and saw that on the ground hundreds of feet below Dongfang Haoran, there was a layer of purple mist rising from the crack of a rock. Both of them could see it clearly. "This is amethyst ginseng?" Dongfang Haoran said, Yes, and this is just a seed I threw in at the beginning. The amethyst ginseng can only germinate and grow in a relatively confined space where the spiritual chi is so dense that it can liquefy. It will take at least 3 years for it to germinate and grow out of the ground, but the continuous nourishment of spiritual chi and chi of Tao can speed up this process. From the time I threw the seed, the amethyst ginseng has already sprouted and rushed out of the ground, even its root system has formed. If it continues to grow at this speed, when the spiritual chi storm stops, this amethyst ginseng will at least be able to bloom. Dongfang Haoren sighed. If you didn't see it with your own eyes, would you dare imagine such a thing? You probably wouldn't even be able to dream of it. This is simply a phenomenon beyond our understanding. The two palace lords could not help but stare at him, speechless for a long time. Without Dongfang Haoren saying anything, how could they not know that the amethyst ginseng was an unusual spiritual herb, an anomaly among the treasures of heaven and earth? The more spiritual chi there was, the faster it would grow. According to normal growth conditions, an amethyst ginseng would need at least 1,000 years to grow from germination to maturity. However, if an amethyst ginseng seed was planted in the center of a large spiritual vein, it could grow from germination to maturity within 10 days. Therefore, they had long known that the amethyst ginseng would grow faster in a place with dense spiritual chi. There was even a legend that there was once an expert who had opened up a spiritual space and scattered a large area of amethyst ginseng seeds. After scattering, the seeds would mature. As the seeds continued to mature, within an hour, millions of amethyst ginseng of the highest quality would be harvested. Of course, this was only a legend. The bound of universe did not have such a terrifying spiritual chi land. However, this was a well-known characteristic of the amethyst ginseng. And now, an amethyst profound ginseng that was growing at a visible rate was right in front of them. Even though it was far from the legendary level, it still gave Shimin Fafu and Beigong Lioli an inexplicable shock. It turned out that a legend was not only a legend, but a legend could also come true. Although they could not achieve such a fast growth rate in their own palaces, the residents of 9 Supremes had actually achieved it. Even though it was an abnormal time when the spiritual chi of heaven and earth converged, it was still shocking and awe-inspiring. Python 9 did not say a word. His face was filled with kindness as he stared at the celestial luck banner that was still shining with silver light in the sky, his eyes full of admiration. This little brother is really extraordinary. About 2 hours later, a strange phenomenon appeared in the sky above the residence of 9 Supremes. It was a heavy downpour. Perhaps it was because the spiritual chi was too dense that even though countless cultivators were absorbing it wantonly, they were still unable to make ends meet. As a result, clouds were gradually formed and the spiritual chi rain was born. Yun Yang, who had long been prepared for this, controlled all the water sources in the residence of 9 Supremes with his will at once and sent them out of the residence of 9 Supremes. Although the original water source of the residence of 9 Supremes could be considered spiritual liquid, it was still not pure spiritual liquid. At least, compared to the spiritual chi rain now, its quality was still much lower. Therefore Yun Yang simply emptied it all. This allowed the spiritual liquid to have the most ample space to be injected. In Yun Yang's mind, today's opportunity was rare. It would be even better if the spiritual rain could take root here and form a spiritual spring below. This torrential rain of spiritual aura lasted for 6 hours. The spiritual chi in the sky was still gathering. Even Dongfang Haoren, who was at the pinnacle of this world, was astounded and did not know what to say, let alone the others. How could the spiritual chi converge last so long? How could it be so long? The question was too profound. Other than Dongfang Haoren and a few other experts, the martial world people who came to attend the ceremony and congratulate were not in the mood to think about such a profound question. All they could do was absorb the spiritual chi of heaven and earth hungrily, cultivate and breathe. Some even took out all the containers they had been slacking off to contain the spiritual liquid that fell from the sky. These were all top-notch items. If they missed this opportunity, they might not have another chance in this lifetime. These spiritual liquids might seem worthless in the residence of 9 Supremes now, but after leaving the residence, they would never have such an opportunity again. In particular, they came to the residence of 9 Supremes during the ceremony, so they would not say anything. How could they still want to enter after today? In their dreams. In such a situation, they would naturally take as many benefits as they could. Many people were cultivating while storing the spiritual liquid, and some were gulping it down like a whale with tears in their eyes. Why can't I become a disciple of the residence of 9 Supremes? In the crowd. The people of the Qin family, the world's #1 financial magnate, wore extremely complicated expressions. While collecting the benefits and cultivating hard, they looked at the little fatty Chen Duo who sat cross-legged among the dozen people on the peak of the mountain. This kid is incredible. He had expelled him from the family and taken away the celestial luck banner qualification. Will this fellow bear a grudge? On the high platform there were auras of breakthroughs rising in the air. In the square, there were also auras of breakthroughs rising one after another. The four sovereigns widened their eyes at the same time when the innate purple chi suddenly appeared. Their faces were filled with shock as they stared at the purple figure under the celestial luck banner. They did not even blink for fear of missing even the slightest detail. Half-step saint. Dongfang Haoran pulled a strand of his beard out, his eyes almost popping out of their sockets. Half-step saint? How is this possible? Shiman Fafu, Beigong Lioli and Mang Nine's eyes were bigger than bells, and Mang Nine almost revealed his true form in shock. This was absolutely impossible, but it had actually happened right in front of their eyes. Everyone present knew very well what cultivation base Yun Yang had when he had just come out of the demon realm. At that time he was only a third-grade Supreme Saint. How long had it been until now? Had it only been a year? How had he surpassed the pinnacle of fourth-grade Supreme Saint and reached the level of half-step Saint? In the pouring spiritual chi storm, the four rulers sighed at the same time. Dongfang Haoran closed his eyes and murmured, "It took me 1,300 years to cross the step back then." Mang Nine and the others rolled their eyes at him. H*T, is this fellow sighing or praising himself? 1,300 years? You're the one who took the shortest time among all of us here. What are you looking at? Do you think I don't know that I'm stronger than all of you? I'm talking about this fellow now. From the pinnacle of fourth-grade Supreme Saint to where he is now, he didn't spend much time. Dongfang Haoran's blunt words were 100,000 times more explosive to the other three rulers. 3 pairs of eyes glared fiercely at Dongfang Haoran. F***CKU? We saw it. We saw it with our own eyes at the same time as you. We understand. We don't need you to say it. Give us a double blow. You bastard. Then a few more auras of breakthroughs drifted over. That's Ji Lingxi, one of Yun Yang's fiancées, has broken through to become a Supreme Saint. She was already Pinnacle Supreme Saint, so it's not strange for her to break through today. Dongfang Haoran mumbled to himself as if explaining and lamenting at the same time. Xiao Wui has broken through to become a Supreme Saint. Xiao Wui is a veteran Pinnacle Supreme Saint expert with sufficient accumulation. It's not strange for him to break through in one day. Shengguan Lingxiu has broken through to become a Supreme Saint. She's also Yun Yang's fiancée, and her cultivation base is similar to Ji Lingxi's. It's not strange for her to break through now. Shi Wuchen has broken through to become a Supreme Saint. He's been with Yun Yang the longest, and his cultivation base is the strongest among the Demiurge Flawed 10. It's not strange for him to break through now. Luo Dajiang has broken through as well. It's not strange? As Dongfang Haoran explained, the more he spoke, the more he felt that his words were incoherent and difficult to convince the crowd. Gradually, he could not even convince himself. All of a sudden, the four rulers felt the wind blowing in their faces, to the point where they were doubting life itself. Today's various changes can be said to have completely overturned our understanding. They did not see anything amidst the torrential spiritual chi storm. Yun Yang, who was also sitting on top of the mountain, was slowly injecting the air of vitality and chi of Tao into the bodies of Shi Wuchen and the others. Update is late. I don't want to write this part. It lacks the process. If I write it, I won't be able to write the thrill. The more it's like this, the harder it is to write. If it were a direct battle, it wouldn't be difficult to write 6 to 7 chapters a day, but the problem is that I can't design a battle plot now. I have to wait until the past. Chapter 1404. The current cultivation was undoubtedly a heaven-sent cultivation opportunity. What Yun Yang had done was to maximize his gains this time around to the extreme. Now that everyone was forced to move forward by the spiritual chi tide, such an opportunity was destined to be difficult to replicate. Given such a good opportunity, Yun Yang naturally wanted to use all means to help the core forces of his sect achieve the maximum breakthrough. Even if the time was not ripe yet, he wanted to help them forcibly break through, even though he knew it was like pulling a seedling up to hasten its growth. Those who received this extra treatment also included Sun Mingxiu, Yun Xiaoxin, Hu Xiaofan, and the other top 10 disciples. As Yun Yang's thoughts flickered, Wisps of aura entered their bodies under the cover of the torrential rain, improving their aptitude, changing their roots, and breaking through the shackles of their cultivation base. This continued for a full 20 hours. Since the beginning of the merging ceremony, it had lasted for an afternoon, then a dark night, and the next morning. The spiritual chi storm had cleansed the mountains and rivers within 10,000 miles around the residence of 9 Supremes, and all the potholes were filled to the brim with spiritual liquid. However, just as the rain in the sky was about to recede, something strange happened again. Somewhere in the residence of 9 Supremes territory, a magnificent aura shot into the sky, causing the gathering of heaven and earth spiritual chi to change again. The expressions of Dongfang Haoran and the other 3 changed again. Shimen Fanfu said in surprise, "This is the aura of another high-level Saint Emperor cultivator breaking through. There's another high-level Saint Emperor in the residence of 9 Supremes?" It was Dong Qitian, who had been supporting the residence of 9 Supremes' Great Hall in the sky, who had also broken through. Although Yun Yang did not specifically instill the chi of life and Tao into Dong Qitian, the latter's cultivation base had long reached the pinnacle of third-grade Saint Emperor. Today, with the unprecedented gathering of heaven and earth spiritual chi and the support of the residents of 9 Supreme's celestial luck banner, it was not unimaginable for him to break through. With Dong Qitian's unexpected breakthrough, the spiritual rain that was about to dissipate lasted for a while longer. It lasted for almost an hour before the spiritual rain stopped and the sky turned clear again. As the spiritual rain faded, the residents of 9 Supreme's celestial luck banner quietly returned to its original position, still fluttering in the air. However, the color of the residents of 9 Supreme's celestial luck banner was no longer silver. Instead, it was a faint golden hue amidst the brilliance of clouds. Pale gold. What did this mean? The 4 hall masters of the Eastern Celestial Palace were all letting out long drawn-out sighs. Their expressions were complicated, and their mouths were filled with bitterness. This was especially true for the Holy Soul Hall, which was ranked last among the 4 halls. They were in a daze. The residence of 9 Supremes was only one more attempt away from becoming a palace-class gold-class celestial luck banner. And this time, the 4 great palaces were well aware that this attack was unstoppable. Even St. Origin Palace, which ranked first among all the palaces, was no match for residents of 9 Supremes, whose strength had improved by leaps and bounds. In other words, one of the 4 great palaces had to be demoted. Other than the weakest Holy Soul Palace, there wouldn't be anyone else that would be demoted. How could this not be bitter? Am I here today to witness the rise of the residents of 9 Supremes, or to witness the fall of the Holy Soul Palace? To most of the other sects that have gained a lot of benefits here, the Holy Soul Palace is really unlucky. After almost a whole day, the people present finally woke up as if they had just woken up from a dream. The ceremony was officially announced to be over. Other than the palace-class experts who were asked to stay by the palace masters, the other sects were given a small gift according to the number of people they had and sent it out of the residence of 9 Supremes. However, the encounter that lasted only for this day had made every one of the hundreds of thousands of martial artists present feel that they had gained a lot. It had even become the most glorious, the most bizarre, and the greatest opportunity of their lives. Even decades or centuries later, the encounter this time would still be widely remembered and passed down by word of mouth. After this day, the residents of 9 Supremes had completely become synonymous with a fairyland. Yes, it was a fairyland, a place that had surpassed the fairyland of the mortal world. This was already the highest level of praise. Have you ever seen a downpour of spiritual liquid from the sky? Have you ever seen mountains and fields filled with tens of thousands of miles of treasures of heaven and earth? Have you ever seen a place where even bedbugs can cultivate? Have you ever seen a place where even rats can fly? Have you ever seen a place where you can break through to the honor realm in 10 years and boast about your extraordinary aptitude in encounters? That's just your shallow knowledge. To make someone break through from the Saint Lord to the Saint Lord in a day, how much more aptitude in encounters can you judge? I've seen all of these and experienced them personally. Let me ask you, are you awesome or not? This day and night is simply a miraculous day and night. Xiao Wui waited until all the participants had left, but he still stood where he was in a daze, motionless. His entire body was trembling with excitement, and the rims of his eyes were red. If he was not in public, his tears would definitely have gushed out. It had only been less than a day. He had truly and thoroughly broken through the shackles that he had not been able to break through for thousands of years, and he had even broken through to the pinnacle of the first-tier Saint Lord. He was only waiting for the next opportunity to break through again. To Xiao Wui, this was something that he dared not even dream of. More than once, he had thought that perhaps he would die at the pinnacle of the fourth-tier Saint Lord for the rest of his life. He did not expect that he would break through during the ceremony at the beginning of the merger of the sects. A massive breakthrough. Lang Fantian and the others were shaking as well, unable to contain their excitement and speechlessness. They too had improved tremendously. Also, Ping Jinyue and the other original members of the Phoenix Cry sect had improved even more. They were originally a middle-ranked sect, and their overall strength was much inferior to the General Commerce Alliance. Now that they had suddenly experienced an unprecedented spirit chi baptism, many of them could not bear it and had their meridians ruptured. However, they were instantly healed and they advanced triumphantly. Something like this was truly inconceivable. It was an unimaginably great opportunity. Similarly, the residents of Ninth Supremes Ling Xiaozue Dugucho and the others were reminiscing. This opportunity had come too beautifully. The feeling of their cultivation base improving by leaps and bounds. Really, even if it happened 100 times, it would not be too much. In comparison, the original disciples of the residents of Nine Supremes were slightly calmer. Although there was more commotion this time, they had experienced similar situations many times before. Could they be more composed? At the back mountain of the residence of Nine Supremes, Dong Qitian, who had not appeared all this while and was only sensed by the four rulers, was filled with mixed feelings as well. He could clearly feel his cultivation base, which was unusually unfamiliar to him. It was an indescribably powerful force that made his blood boil with excitement. Was this the fourth-tier pinnacle Saint Lord that he had been yearning for? He had achieved it so easily. From third-tier pinnacle Saint Lord to fourth-tier pinnacle Saint Lord, he had thought that he would need another 10,000 years of accumulation before he had a chance to break through. Unexpectedly, he had broken through in less than a day. Old Dong felt that his decision to join the residence of Nine Supremes was too wise, too decisive and too correct. As for Yun Yang's mockery and provocation, he could not be bothered at all. It was insignificant. As long as I have this day, even if I have to point at my nose and call me an old bastard, it's worth it. Old Dong thought contentedly. Everyone go back and rest for 3 days. Familiarize yourself with your current state and stabilize your state of mind. Yun Yang passed down the order. You must adapt to your new strength within 3 days. There were not many people left in this manner. The 3 heavenly palaces, the Holy Land of Tianfa, the 4 halls, 3 talents, 5 corners Saint Lords, and the various beast kings of the Holy Land of Tianfa were only a few hundred people. Yun Yang had made all the necessary arrangements. Besides, the 3 great families, as the only families in the bound of universe with gold-class celestial luck banners, were also left behind. Most of the people who stayed felt that there was still a good show to watch. All of them were somewhat excited and expectant, but there was also a small group of people who were frowning. We want to go back. We don't want to stay here. But, you can't leave even if you want to. Because, the main characters later include you. The 3 palace lords of the heavenly palaces were here and did not allow me to leave. How would I dare to leave? Guan Mai, the lord of the Holy Soul Palace, was sullen and depressed, like a resentful wife. These 3 days were also the time for the guests who stayed behind to digest what they had learned. Chen Duo, what's wrong with you? Yun Yang looked at the only fellow who looked so gloomy amidst the elation. We're all on the same side, brothers. Tell me about it. The others were puzzled as well. At this moment when everyone in the residence of Nine Supremes was rejoicing, Chen Duo, the major domo of the residence of Nine Supremes and the person with the most power, wore a gloomy face as if someone owed him millions of dollars. He looked like he was about to burst into tears and rage. What was the reason for this? Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Chen Duo wore an ugly smile and heaved a long sigh. It's just that something has stirred up in my heart. What is it? It's such a joyous day. Why are you so dejected? Chen Duo hesitated and said, I think many people have guessed that I'm from the Chen family. Yes, I'm from the Chen family. He chuckled bitterly. The Chen family, the world's #1 financial magnate. The crowd was dumbfounded when they heard him. There were probably only 2 superpowers in the bound of universe that were famous for their business. One was the General Commerce League, which used martial arts to supplement business. Their business was spread all over the world, focusing on auctions and smuggling goods. They also dealt in stolen goods. Strictly speaking, the General Commerce League was famous for its business, but it was not so pure. It was just that compared to other sects, it did not focus on business. As for the world's top financial magnate, the Chen family, it was the true business family. Its wealth was even greater than the General Commerce League, and it was involved in all kinds of business. However, the Qian family and the General Commerce League's main business was different, so the two families did not have much interaction. The Qian family was truly involved in all kinds of industries. They regarded the entire bound of universe as their own market. They were the undisputed #1 financial magnate for tens of thousands of years. Qian Duoduo was the first to follow Yun Yang among the people in the Residence of Nine Supremes. He could even be said to be the other founder of the Residence of Nine Supremes. After the Residence of Nine Supremes was established, he had worked hard and his position was even higher than Shi Wuchen and the others. To put it bluntly, other than Yun Yang, the Residence of Nine Supremes could not do without Qian Duoduo. Without Qian Duoduo, the chief logistics officer, the Residence of Nine Supremes would immediately fall into chaos. It was even more so today. In the bound of universe, where cultivation base was the most important and combat power was the most important, Qian Duoduo had obtained the position of being second only to one and above tens of thousands of people in the massive Residence of Nine Supremes with a cultivation base that was almost insignificant. It was truly something that could not be done by others. Therefore, the higher-ups of the Residence of Nine Supremes, Shi Wuchen and the others, and even Yun Yang himself, had long had doubts and speculations about Qian Duoduo's background. It was just that Qian Duoduo was unwilling to talk about his past. Since they were brothers, naturally no one provoked him. Now that he had revealed his background, everyone was shocked, but it was only a shock. After all, the Residence of Nine Supremes today could be said to be a family with a huge business. Even the world's #1 financial magnate could hardly restrain it. With a glance, Qian Duoduo realized that everyone present was a part of the Residence of Nine Supremes. He could no longer hold it in. He let out a long sigh and said, "Back then the Qian family produced a useless genius. He was a genius in business but his cultivation was useless. If this person was someone else, the Qian family would be happy to see it happen. After all, the Qian family is famous for its business. However, if this useless genius had another identity, the son of the family leader, things would be completely different. I'm sure everyone is familiar with this matter, right?" Shi Wuchen and the others nodded. Not only were they familiar with it, but they were also familiar with it. The fact that the young leader of the Qian family lacked aptitude and could hardly make any progress in his cultivation had indeed caused an uproar in the entire bound of universe. If the future leader of the family could not cultivate, so what if he was a genius in business? Without a certain level of ability, there would be no foundation, and in the end he would not be able to defend himself. This was the case even in the Qian family, which was famous for its business. The young leader of the family, the useless genius, was my grandfather, my biological grandfather. Qian Duoduo chuckled bitterly and said, "Grandfather and great-grandfather made the decision very quickly to resign from the position of heir. Unable to cultivate, even if you had the wealth of the world, you would only end up as a puppet, precarious at any time. Any action by someone with ulterior motives could kill you without a burial place. Instead of being vigilant and laboring your entire life, it was better to give it up early in exchange for a peaceful life." Everyone nodded in agreement. It was true that no matter how much of a genius one was in business, in the martial world of the bound of universe, one's ability was always the most important. This was even more so for someone who had no cultivation base at all. Qian Duoduo's grandfather's decision to resign from the position as soon as possible could be said to be the wisest decision. However, the first-generation ancestor of the Qian family, Qian Yuntian, had once left behind a sentence before he passed away. It was, "Gather people, gather wealth, gather virtue, gather strength. Hands are not capable of trapping a chicken, but the heart is capable of subduing a dragon. The phoenix can rise to nirvana, and man can triumph over the heavens. After a difficult journey there is no way forward. When one achieves the Tao, the whole family will ascend to immortality." This prophecy had always puzzled the Qian family, and they did not know what it was referring to. It was not until my grandfather was born that we heard some anecdotes about the wastrel genius. At that time, my Qian family's grand elder, Qian Luoxing, did not know what was going through his mind, but he was certain that my grandfather was like that. Hands are not capable of trapping a chicken, but the heart is capable of subduing a dragon. That he would rise to nirvana in the future, and man will triumph over the heavens. So, he was determined not to allow my grandfather to resign from his position. In the beginning, with Grand Elder Qian Luoxing protecting our family, we lived in harmony. The Qian family has always been known for its business, and we rarely had any external enemies. As long as the family's wealth remained strong, outsiders would not be able to shake us. However, after my great-grandfather went into closed-door cultivation, and my grandfather began to take charge of the family's affairs, internal strife began to grow. It was at that time that Grand Elder Qian Luoxing went berserk in his cultivation and passed away. Our family lost its support. My grandfather initially hoped that my great-grandfather would be able to achieve a breakthrough and stabilize the situation, but unfortunately, what happened was that my great-grandfather did not achieve a breakthrough in his closed-door cultivation. Instead, he overdrafted his life's potential, and his lifespan came to an end early. Following the deaths of Grand Elder and great-grandfather, the entire family looked on coldly from the sidelines, waiting to see if my grandfather would be able to put on a show of the Phoenix's nirvana. But in the end, for some reason, my grandfather drank too much one night and died. Everyone was speechless. We were also waiting for your grandfather to be able to trapping a chicken, but the heart is capable of subduing a dragon. We were also waiting to hear about your grandfather's nirvana in the end. In the end, you threw out such a big suspense, but the main character died. Chapter 1405. Everyone was dumbfounded. What the hell is going on? Everyone was waiting for the next turn of events. Why did they all die? And the more they died, the more unexpected it became. It did not conform to the logic of a legend at all. Then, of course, it was the complete decline of our branch. My father and a few of my uncles were considered to have some aptitude and could enter the Tao to cultivate, which would give them more power to protect themselves. But my father, second uncle, third uncle, and fourth uncle all suffered from qi deviation on the same night and became completely crippled. At that time, I was the only one left in my branch. I was still considered intact. I made a prompt decision to escape from the house, and soon after, I was hunted down. In fact, it was an exaggeration to say that I was hunted down. The real purpose of the hunt was to chase me a little further away from the Qian family's power. They did not really want to kill me but merely banished me. When I thought about it later, I realized that we all probably belonged to the same celestial luck banner at that time, and killing me at that time would also result in the wrath of heaven. But soon after, I was shocked to find that the Qian family's celestial luck banner had disappeared from my body. They must have removed me from the family. From that day on, Qian Duo became a loner. An indescribable smile appeared on Qian Duoduo's face. And today, I've finally met the number one family in the world again. In the whole of the bound of universe, there have only been 3 families with gold celestial luck banners since ancient times. The Li family, the Xikong family, and the Qian family. Qian Duo took a deep breath and said with a faint smile, "When I saw them today, I was in a completely different state of mind. I believe that when they saw me, their feelings were probably similar to mine. I believe that few people would have thought that I would be able to turn over a new leaf in this life, or a big one at that, and achieve the ichthyosaur transformation, a transformation that could set off monstrous waves." There was an indescribable sadness and peace in his faint smile. When Shi Wuchen and the others saw that faint smile, they all felt a pang of bitterness in their hearts, as if they had experienced it themselves. "What are you going to do next, little fatty? We'll help you." Luo Dajiang was panting heavily when he heard that. His eyes went wide as he said furiously, "Are we going to kill this Qian clan later?" Qian Duo thought for a moment and said bitterly, "It's not that easy. Even if our 4 sects have merged and become unprecedentedly grand, at the end of the day, what we have is merely a superior class silver celestial luck banner, not a true gold celestial luck banner. The Qian clan is an aristocratic clan with a gold celestial luck banner that has been passed down for countless years. We are rich and powerful, unparalleled in the world. Moreover, the residents of 9 Supremes had just been merged, and there were many things waiting to be done. Everything was difficult. Now it was time to keep a low profile and recuperate. It was not the right time to cause any more trouble. The Qian clan was really not to be trifled with. I don't even want to consider this matter in the long run. Not to be trifled with? Shi Wuchen, Luo Dajiang, and the others chuckled. Yun Yang's right hand quietly pressed on Qian Duoduo's shoulder. For some reason, the moment Yun Yang's hand pressed on his shoulder, Qian Duo suddenly felt a sense of security, as if he had suddenly found his backbone, someone to rely on, and there was nothing to be afraid of. Little Fatty is right. The residents of 9 Supremes does need to upgrade, adjust, and recuperate at the moment. Therefore, an all-out war against the Qian clan cannot happen. Yun Yang's next words made everyone's faces look a little gloomy. However, if we let the Qian clan continue to be so comfortable, the residents of 9 Supremes will be letting down our Major Domo, who has worked hard and contributed a lot. When it comes to contributions, he is the biggest contributor to the residents of 9 Supremes. Does anyone have any objections? No. Shi Wuchen and the others reacted immediately. Obviously, they had understood the underlying meaning of Yun Yang's words and the implications behind them. Among them, Shi Wuchen's chest was the highest. Was the raiders of all but heaven's 9-feet-high swallows plucked feathers, the black and white evils, about to come online again? Yun Yang was not the only one in the raiders of all but heaven that day, there was also Shi Wuchen. Yun Yang thought for a moment and said, "Ask Xiuxin, Xiaofan and the other eldest disciples to come here." What was going on? Not long after, the first 100 first-generation disciples, including Yun Xiuxin, entered the hall respectfully. Now that Shi Wuchen and the others had been promoted to the old guys, they did not care much about the sex affairs. Most of the sex affairs were handled by the disciples. This was especially true for the 100 first-generation disciples in front of them. Any one of them had a role to give orders, and there were countless disciples below them who were responsible for the specific matters. "I've asked you to come here and tell you a story. It's about your uncle Master Qian, the major domo of the residence of 9 Supremes." Yun Yang slowly recounted Qian Duoduo's story. Yun Yang's words caused the eyes of the 100 first-generation disciples to blaze with fire. Yun Yang continued slowly, "There is a saying that when a master has something to do, the disciple will do it for him. Now that the residence of 9 Supremes is in the period of development, we can't start an all-out war, and your uncle Master Qian doesn't want to neglect the public for personal reasons. So, you know what you're doing and you're free to think about it. When you go back later, think about how you, as disciples, should help your uncle Master Qian vent his anger. Remember, this anger must be vented in a comfortable and satisfying way. Also, the matter can't be blown out of proportion. How to continue, how to develop, how to act, how to end it." Yun Yang smiled meaningfully and said, "In short, there's a way. Do you all understand what I'm saying?" Luo Dajiang frowned slightly. "Boss, what are you talking about? You didn't say anything, so how can the disciples understand? What do they need to understand?" However, what he didn't expect was that the 100 exceptional disciples all shouted in unison, their spirits roused. "Disciples understand, we guarantee to complete the mission." "What task? When did the masters of the residence of 9 Supremes assign any task?" "Leave now." Yun Yang waved his hand. "Yes." Without another word, the disciples bowed and left. Not a single one of them had any questions. Luo Dajiang, on the other hand, was even more puzzled, feeling more and more like he was in a fog. "Lingxi, you don't have anything to do anyway. Why don't you focus on watching these disciples these few days? Don't let them cause any trouble." Yun Yang thought about it and decided to assign a bodyguard to these young fellows to ensure their safety. After all, these people from the Qian family were at least at the pinnacle of the Supreme Saint level, and there were 2 Saint Lords among them. It was understandable to look down on their opponents in terms of strategy, but it would be suicidal to look down on their opponents in terms of skills and tactics. If the disciples were allowed to mess around, they might be the ones suffering instead. The phrase, "don't let them cause trouble," should be removed from the word, "cause trouble," for it to be understood more smoothly. Ji Lingxi had always been a person who was not afraid of trouble. She was all smiles and said confidently, "No problem." Then she left. Qian Duoduo's lips quivered, his eyes rimmed with tears. "Take it slow. Today is only the first step." Yun Yang patted him on the shoulder and said, "Cutting flesh with a blunt knife is the most painful, especially in the business world. You will see that the Qian family, which rarely has any external problems, is now full of external problems." Qian Duoduo's voice turned choked as he murmured, "Boss, aren't you afraid that I'm lying? That I've wronged a good person? Is it decided?" Yun Yang smiled faintly. "Good person? The residence of 9 Supremes is a good person. How can the opposite be a good person?" Yun Yang had never claimed to be a good person. Even when he was reasonable, he was only reasonable to outsiders. Justice was only in his own hands, and he would not care about what was right or wrong. After saying this, Yun Yang did not linger on this matter but changed the topic immediately. What Yun Yang had arranged was a plan that would take several years. In other words, from now on, as long as the residence of 9 Supremes still existed, as long as the Qian family was not destroyed, the disciples could do whatever they wanted. However, Yun Xiuxin did not want to wait that long. These young fellows had a plan almost as soon as they stepped out of the hall. And they had already begun to act. All the hall factions had their own individual courtyards that were surrounded by exotic flowers and grasses. Needless to say, the scenery was unique. Just the area occupied by the courtyards alone was rather large. It was more than a dozen hectares, and there were over 100 houses, pavilions, and halls. It could be said to be an extremely imposing sight. The 4 sacred palaces were in a row, the 3 talents palace was next to each other, the 5 sacred masters were next to each other, and the Qin clan, Li clan and Sikong clan were next to each other. In the past few days no one had moved. It was obvious that they were digesting what they had gained from this cultivation. The current situation could not be clearer. The 3 heavenly palaces must be discussing something, and it was most likely the residents of 9 Supremes ranking battle. The 3 palace masters didn't say anything to let them leave, so no one dared to leave. The spiritual qi in the residence of 9 Supremes was unusually abundant. It could be said to be a cultivation sanctuary of the highest level, not to mention that the food was good and the hospitality was excellent. Meals made of spiritual herbs and spiritual ingredients would be served every morning, noon, and night. Not only did they look, smell, and taste delicious, they were also of great help to one's cultivation. Even the high-level cultivators who had been fasting for a long time were willing to make an exception and eat to their heart's content. It could even be said that, except for the Holy Soul Palace, the others were enjoying themselves to the fullest. However, on this day there was a sudden, subtle change in the situation. After a few disciples of the residents of 9 Supremes delivered the customary breakfast, the Qin clan, the world's #1 financial tycoon, was surprised to find that something doesn't seem right. Why is the spiritual qi around our courtyard getting thinner? A moment later, is the spiritual qi gone? Someone from the Qin clan came out to check, only to see that the spiritual qi was still lingering in the distance, like a fairyland on earth. However, the place where they stood, hundreds of feet in circumference, seemed to be a forbidden area isolated from spiritual qi. What's going on? Just as he was wondering about it, he saw a few residents of 9 Supremes disciples carrying food boxes over slowly. The rich aroma of the food wafted over, and the spiritual qi within it was even stronger. Before he had even taken the food he was already drooling. This is still not right. Didn't they use spatial rings to deliver the food before? Why are they using the food boxes today? The Qin clan watched as the 2 disciples flew over with the food boxes and passed by them, heading to the Li clan and the Sikong clan without stopping at the Qin clan's area. Are they only delivering food to the other 2 clans and not giving us a share? The Qin clan felt that something was wrong. A Qin clan elder stopped a disciple of the residents of 9 Supremes and asked, "What about our clan?" The disciple looked as humble as ever as he answered respectfully, "I don't know." "Shouldn't they be delivered together?" "I don't know." "What's going on?" "I don't know." The disciple answered all the Qin clan elders' questions with a "I don't know." The Qin clan's frustration grew stronger and stronger. After waiting for another hour, when the other 2 clans had finished their meals and were cultivating, there was still no movement here. The sudden disappearance of spiritual qi must be the residents of 9 Supremes doing, but now there's no food as well. Isn't this too much of a bully? Isn't this too much? No matter what, we're guests who came to congratulate. Don't the residents of 9 Supremes have any shame? There's nothing to fear but injustice. Go and ask. The Qin clan leader's eyes were filled with an insuppressible cold light. The residents of 9 Supremes has gone too far. The Qin clan is a big clan with a big business. When have we ever cared about a meal or a little help in cultivation? Even if it's 10 times better cultivation resources, it doesn't matter. What we care about is our dignity. They don't serve us meals, but they still want to walk around in front of us with the food boxes. This is a clear provocation, a blatant provocation. This could not be tolerated. Uncle could tolerate it, Aunt could not tolerate it. Not far away, the people from the Sikong clan and the Li clan were puzzled when they saw the Qin clan standing at the gate. Some of them who were acquainted with the Qin clan came over to have a chat. When they learned about the specific situation here, they all wore strange expressions. Is there a need to say it clearly? The Qin clan is being targeted. We don't have such treatment. I didn't think much of it before, but now that I'm dealing with it myself, it's just a distance of dozens of steps. But the supply of spiritual qi on both sides can no longer be described as heaven and earth. It's an essential difference. It's already a loss to come here to talk. Let's go back quickly. One of the Qin clan members was extremely upset by this encounter. Seeing that there were no disciples of the residents of 9 Supremes around, he walked toward the Li clan in annoyance, planning to find someone to talk to and analyze the situation. However, just as he took a dozen steps and was about to reach the Li clan's area, a figure suddenly flashed in front of him. A disciple of the residents of 9 Supremes suddenly appeared in front of him. His manner was humble and his words were appropriate, The sex-restricted area, please stop, honorable guest. The Qian clan member was stunned by the dissuasion. Why did nothing happen when the Li clan members walked to our side just now? The distance is the same, but I'm already in the sex-restricted area? Isn't the differential treatment too obvious? This was too unscrupulous, brazen, and insane, wasn't it? The Qian clan expert's face was as dark as the bottom of a pot. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.